Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of How To Wrestling, the world's first wrestling podcast detailing how to wrestling, how to get into wrestling, how to understand wrestling, and goodness knows, maybe even how to enjoy wrestling. However, once again, I'm the ire of the internet wrestling community, well, the lesser of two evils in this case, Kevin Mann, joined in this look at a very special tag team indeed, the Young Bucks I'm talking about, joined by Joanna Graham.
Hello.
Are you excited about this one, Joe?
I'm very excited about this one.
This is a first, for many instances, this is the first episode of How To Wrestling, where we're doing a non-WWE team.
Yeah.
It's obviously an interesting first episode for us because we are going to be mainly focusing on WWE, but I think that the Young Bucks are probably such a substantial non-WWE presence that they are definitely warranting their own episode. And also, it's the first episode which has been chosen by one of our backers on Patreon. Chosen one.
The chosen one.
Chosen one.
The first ever chosen one.
And I was a little bit shaky about this whole Patreon thing. I go, they're going to request some fucking awful muck.
The obscurest thing.
It's going to be like how to Tiger Alley scene just so they can watch me fester in rage and how shit I hate. But no, this is an absolute gem. How to Young Bucks, because it's a team which, had you heard much about this before?
No, I hadn't heard about them at all. Never.
Hadn't heard about them?
No, when this episode was requested by Kevin Poole. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. You know what? You're so cool. You can use F for your Kevin as well. You know.
Go for it.
Go for it.
When we first got the message from Kevin requesting it, I turned to you and I was like, no idea who these people are. I hope they're good, because this is high risk.
I think I did like a wee little dance in the kitchen where I was like, yes!
Yes!
Because I'll be honest, I will say this off the bat, right from the start, okay? I am not an expert in the Young Bucks at all, okay? They are obviously from a world and an area of wrestling where I do dip my toe in. I do try to keep up with broad strokes and find out what's going on, who are the main players and whatnot. But I'm by no means an indie wrestling aficionado. So at first I was a little bit concerned about this. I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be awful. I don't know if I've enough to say about these guys. But then I realized that they are a team that have such strong opinions one way or another from so many fans, and I'm someone as well who would obviously have an opinion, and I really was relishing the chance not just to sit down and hear what people have to say about this by tweeting in How To Young Bucks. There was some amazing comments here, like
really
probably
good.
One of the most active ones ever, I would say.
This is definitely, not only the most active in terms of number of comments, replies, tweets, whatever we've been sent, but also in terms of different opinions. I thought Hulk Hogan would be more controversial than this one.
Hulk Hogan was like, fuck him, but he made a lot of money. Whereas this one, we had people saying they are ruining the business, and people also saying they are saving the wrestling business. And not just to hear those opinions, which is fascinating for us, but also just to sit down and watch some matches. Because, I mean, I'd seen quite a few Young Bucks matches, but to really sit down and kind of try and give these guys a fair appraisal, and particularly with someone like you who's only watching wrestling for so long, I think your opinion is probably the most important of all for anyone when talking about the Young Bucks, because it's something different, I guess.
Yeah, that's super different.
I mean, not to get into the matches just this second, but I mean, how would you have described your Young Bucks match watching experience?
High energy.
Exhilarating?
Yes, very exhilarating.
Oh, no.
Very athletic.
This is the only episode of the podcast where Joe has not got a can of energy drink.
Yeah, if I seem slow.
Such is the work rate and the pace of the Young Bucks match. It's literally making Joe's blood move quicker.
It's true. I don't need it. They're my energy drink.
So, the Young Bucks, I mean, these are guys names who I would have heard crop up on the independent scene for a number of years, and they had some kind of blips on the radar before really kind of catching fire in late 2011, early 2012. I mean, for those of you who don't know, and I'm not sure how aware of you were of this, that outside the world of WWE, which is obviously the number one organization, and even the likes of TNA and Ring of Honor, which I would say are probably jockeying for the number 2 position, but they would be considerably smaller, nowhere close to WWE. But there's this whole world of independent promotions that have shows, DVDs, events, huge followings.
Yeah.
I mean, how aware were you of this whole extra world outside of WWE?
I knew of a few from when I first kind of started watching wrestling, but before we started the podcast, that kind of area there.
Yeah.
You showed me, like, Chikara.
Chikara was one of the first things I showed you, because I thought that I didn't want you to think that wrestling was just glitz, glamour.
Yeah.
It can also have, smaller scale, but fun.
And I love that you introduced me to Chikara, because it made me incredibly cool amongst the very few people I knew who did watch wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, oh yeah, I know Chikara now.
For those of you at home who are wondering, yes, she did know who Luke Harper was before she knew who Luke... She knew him as Brody Lee. She saw him wrestling the little lumberjack, okay? She's in, she's cool, she's in the secret club, and you can't judge her. But, yeah, so you were obviously aware of this whole world, almost.
Yeah, a little bit. And I seen a couple of matches. Again, when I first started watching and I wanted to try and impress you, I got my friends to link me to things. And my good friend Lloyd Pies, he linked me to Ring of Honor.
Ah, yes.
And so I watched a couple of matches from that, which is kind of what Seth Rollins came from, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're not to maybe... I always feel that by giving this list or saying this list that I might make you think you should give up on watching all wrestling other than this. But Ring of Honor did give us Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Chris Hero,
Samoa Joe?
Cesaro, Samoa Joe, okay? you know, Austin Aries. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
If you think of anyone who's almost like the style that you like, Ring of Honor, and obviously not just Ring of Honor, but the likes of PWG, where you had, Kevin Owens.
What's PWG?
Pro Wrestling Guerilla. We watched a few of their shows for this. And then, also a lot, they're giving us the likes of, Kevin Owens, who was Kevin Steen originally, Sami Zayn, who used to be El Generico. I mean, again, there's all these names who either are thrilling you on the main roster or on NXT, are coming from this whole world. So I definitely would say that it's worth, if you are a new fan, and maybe, you're finding the main product a little bit to get into, do check out some of these indie shows. You will find something. It's much different, and it's just a case of maybe finding what you like. And we had a little bit of a whistle-stop tour with this. I have to say thank you to everyone who sent in amazing match requests. We managed to actually see a huge variety across the Young Bucks. Many, 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 many different appearances in different promotions and brands. But to give them a little bit of background, I mean, the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, who I have great difficulty remembering which one is which.
Someone actually sent us in a helpful tweet about that. According to Jamie Can't Fail, Matt is the one with the big sideburns, Nick is the one with the rad sneer.
Okay, I mean, that's not helpful. I mean,
it is helpful. One of them has really big sideburns.
But no, the way I thought the big sideburns was matted sideburns, like they're big and they're bushy. I don't know, but now part of me thinks they might be the other way around.
I mean, they both have sideburns and they both have cool sneers.
That's true.
But one of them more than the other.
But yeah, these guys, they've been wrestling since they were wee nippers, all the way back to, they would have been guys who got in through doing things like, wrestling in very, very small shows when they were like teenagers and stuff like that. And I do remember first seeing them or hearing about them appearing on certain indies and how like they were really had a lot of high flying offense, very flashy maneuvers. They were like a legit brother tag team, and there was a lot of buzz about them. And they ended up showing up in TNA, and TNA, which had a massively amazing ability to take something that was red hot and turn it ice cold.
Chili McFreeze.
Seriously, Ice Daggers secretly controlling TNA all along. Guess what they called the Young Bucks in TNA?
Oh, God, what did they call them?
Generation Me.
Oh, for God's sake.
The fuck does that even mean?
That's just named after a Time article.
Generation Me.
No, it is.
Matt and Nick raise a few eyebrows and the stakes at the same time.
It's a Time article about millennials.
Seriously.
Shit.
And obviously, the 40-something-year-olds who were running TNA saw them and thought, they probably know what Instantgram is. Let's call them Generation Me. And, they went out there, and I remember seeing them, and they called them like Matt Buck and Nick Buck, Generation Me. I was like, just call them the fucking Young Bucks. But anyway, they got signed because they had like a dark match and they impressed them so much. They're like, we have to sign these guys. They're so amazing. And they would wrestle like lower cards, not featured. And they would never give them a proper storyline. They never had a proper push. They were just designated as, well, heck, those are those young guys who do them flip-de-doos. Let's pay them above minimum wage and never sell a t-shirt or anything like that. And they ended up leaving TNA. And they left TNA amidst a lot of like bad buzz, for lack of a better term. You had the likes of, if you remember Rob Van Dam, who's that guy we watched wrestle John Cena in ECW.
Yeah.
Like, Rob Van Dam was someone who came out and specifically said that he found them to be hard to work with, disrespectful, and like that they didn't show the proper respect that one needs in the wrestling world.
Right, yeah, I've heard this.
And that was like kind of like, I remember thinking and going like, wow, I mean, they really must have pissed some people off big time to not only leave the company, but then also to have someone who's, I mean, Rob Van Dam, marijuana enthusiast, is known for two things. One, flips, and two, being generally quite chill.
Right.
And when he's there saying that, yeah, they're disrespectful and they, weren't respectful to me and they've no place being here.
Is he big hung up on the rules then?
I'm not so much hung up on the rules, but...
He doesn't seem the sort.
Well, like, you can call them the rules, and then some people will kind of say, it's not the rules, it's just kind of general respect towards kind of... I mean, Rob Van Dam, he's a legend, he's paved the way for people like you. Give him the time of day.
Is it at all tied to paying your dues?
A little bit, I guess. Heard. Because, I mean, the obvious charge against the Young Bucks from older veterans is always going to be, oh, you young guys come in here with your flips and...
Old man yells at cloud kind of thing.
Kind of. I mean, there's a bit of that. I mean, you can see where they're coming from in some respects. But obviously, if you're the fucking Young Bucks and you're in your early 20s, you've got young families, you're tearing it up, and you're getting paid shit money and then fucking getting no push, well then why would you be respectful to other people? Because you are probably put in a position where, you're not getting respect. Yeah. So why is it coming back? I mean, that's just my view on it. And I mean, the other one that came out around this time is they left TNA and there was rumblings that they were going to sign with WWE and it was going to be the big thing that they were going to be like, big signing, WWE, it's going to be awesome, around 2011. And the story that broke, and it was fucking everywhere. If you didn't know who the Young Bucks were before this, you would know after it, because the Young Bucks did their tryout match, and then they didn't shake Booker T's hand.
Wrestling is so silly.
What has happened now is most wrestling fans are turning this off because I brought up a very upsetting idea and something that they've remembered, which they hate, which is the Young Bucks didn't shake Booker T's hand that one time. How dare you?
Oh my god, I'm having a heart attack.
How dare you not shake them? He paved the way. Booker T paved the way for people like you and for people to say that all women hate each other, dog. How dare you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hear that the Young Bucks didn't shake Booker T's hand. I just think kind of good. He said some nasty things about women.
I'd say just right now, I wouldn't shake his hand, in the presence of a lady. I feel it would be wrong,
Apparently I just hate all women, so...
Hey, man, you know what I say about women? They all hate other women. I hate women, dog. But yeah, that was it. And the Young Bucks had then gotten the reputation that hard to work with. Veterans think they're bad. They don't shake people's hands. They didn't get signed by WWE. Then there was rumblings as well later down the line that they'd even turned WWE down. Who turns down WWE? You can't turn them down.
This is a thing I've come across a lot during the run-up to this episode.
There was essentially a bidding war for them at one point.
It sounds that way.
Because they work with Ring of Honor, who've never, as far as I know, until recently at least, they've never tied them down to an exclusive contract. Obviously, Japan, they do a lot of work over there, New Japan Pro Wrestling. WWE were making... There was a lot of people who were trying to bid for them, essentially. And they did turn down WWE.
I'm not really surprised, to be honest. Especially, was it the main show aspect of WWE?
I think by the time that there was the indication would have been that they would have went to NXT, which is the training ground.
At what point though would that have been? Because NXT's quite young, isn't it?
Again, the bidding war story came out maybe around a year or two ago, so we don't jump ahead too far in the timeline. We'll maybe talk about that shortly. But I mean, what came out of that whole thing of the not shaking the hand was then that the Young Bucks started incorporating this into their gimmick.
Okay.
And I remember distinctly watching a show where, watched the match and whatever, and then the Young Bucks went out, they put out their hands to shake at the start.
They just kick it.
And then they pull the hands away, no, we don't shake. And that's where we start getting the kind of elements of this modern Young Bucks tag team.
It's very meta, isn't it?
It's incredibly meta. And one of my main concerns with going through some of this stuff is I wonder if it's too meta for a new fan such as yourself.
That'll be interesting.
I mean, it is quite referential to tropes in wrestling.
Well, I'd say I've got generally quite a good understanding of satire and meta comedy. But so hopefully I'll get it.
I know for a fact, though, that there's a number of things that they do, which I will say, it'll probably make more sense when we do this episode down the line.
Okay.
That's probably going to happen. But it's exciting,
I'll get to enjoy them more down the line.
But, is it exclusive or does it leave out new fans? I mean, we'll obviously find out as we go through this episode. But... yeah, incorporating this kind of mega heelery into their work, and in recent years the Young Bucks have been known as being these absolute, just complete monster evil heels.
Okay.
I mean, why I say monster heels, not in terms of them
they're
being...
not, monster.
Yeah, monster in terms of, there's a video of them super kicking an 8-year-old child.
Yeah.
And I believe they both said to him, "We're both sleeping with your mother." After
yes, they did. That's a nice way of phrasing they said it.
That's the politically correct. Yeah. I mean, if this is the Attitude Era podcast, we maybe would have put a little salt and pepper on that explanation there. But yes, definitely, most evil gentlemen are the Young Bucks in terms of their characters, and they're not just trying to piss off the audience; they are trying to piss off actual wrestling fans, and some would even argue wrestlers themselves.
Sounds like they've done a good job of that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we looked at a whole little bunch of different things. I mean, we looked at stuff from Pro Wrestling Guerilla, from New Japan Pro Wrestling, a little bit of Chikara, some Ring of Honor stuff as well. Mm-hmm. I will say right now that there is a heavy backlog of Young Bucks matches, which I think Joe and I, if we're looking, instead of watching an episode of a TV show, it's kind of like, maybe it's a bit too of a high-amp evening to watch Grey's Anatomy. Let's watch a 30-minute Young Bucks match instead. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, there's a big pile of them still to watch.
Okay, good.
So, yeah, don't worry about that. The first one that we watched was one that was sent in quite a lot, and people were saying it was one of the matches of the year from 2014, which was the Young Bucks teaming up with Adam Cole, taking on Chuck Taylor, the Kentucky Gentleman, one of my all-time favourites, Kenny Omega, who you may or may not recognise already. Joe, tell the good people how you know Kenneth Omega.
Kenny Omega, we watched a match of his when we were on holiday, basically, up that mountain where we couldn't watch the live stream, people might remember. And Kenny Omega, we showed a clip of his match to my mum and my uncle, and to me, of him fighting a child.
It's a child in Japan.
So I see it seems to run in that group.
That kind of
child abuse.
A little bit. I mean, all I will say is Kenny Omega at least gave the kid a fighting chance. The Young Bucks laid that they fucking buried that kid, like, alright? That fucking American 8-year-old kid, he couldn't fucking work. He barely even sold that super kick, alright? The kid that Kenny Omega wrestled in Japan, that they know the business. They know how to work, And also Zack Sabre Jr. And this took place at the Pro Wrestling Guerilla PWG Battle of Los Angeles. That was night one, just around August of 2014. Turning on this match straight away, my immediate worry or thought was, what will Joe make of not the 73,000 in the arena, brother, but rather the maybe 100 or so fans in the small community centre with the lower production values, single camera. What did you make of it?
As a graduate of media production, the low production value bothers me. It does bother me. It makes me angry that I know they could up their production value very easily.
Yeah.
Video content is not hard to produce now, guys. It's 2015.
So you think that it did...
It needs to be better.
Happens with Adam, also media graduate.
Yeah.
I remember we would watch Chikara. I got him this box set of Chikara shows, and he was super amped, loving it. And there was one show which we were watching and he couldn't enjoy, because when it cut to the other camera, the white balance was slightly different, and it ruined it for the man. I've
just realised you literally only make podcasts with media production graduates from the University of Lincoln.
Exclusively.
Literally, me, Adam, Billy and Sam are all from the same course at Lincoln University.
If you're all jonesing to be on a podcast with Kevin Mann, just enrol yourself in the University of Lincoln.
It's got our own little fan club.
Seriously. But, so, did it impact on your enjoyment of it? Because I know some people are kind of like, well, if there's not thousands of people going, yay, I don't feel compelled to go,
The audience size didn't bother me at all, because it's such an enthused audience. They're so passionate and they're so, energetic.
It's kind of like the NXT audience.
Yeah.
Ooh, I might get some heat for saying that, but, I mean, it is comparable in that smaller crowd, more vocal.
It's a smaller room as well, so the smaller crowd doesn't really make a big difference.
I mean, there is atmosphere.
Yeah.
When we were watching
it would be
match.
A different case if it was a massive fucking auditorium and there were 100 people.
Yeah. What did you make to the Young Bucks ring attire? They had this amazing sweet money pants in this one.
I thought they looked like dinks, basically. They're wearing, flares with, like, scrappy bits
tassels,
on
baby.
them. Tasseled flares.
Scrappy bits!
Sorry.
Tassels!
Scrappy bits. And, like, leather waistcoats.
Matching as well.
And one of them obviously has big sideburns. They both have ponytails. It's like
usually
awful.
Usually coming out to Mbop by
really
Hansen as well. Trolls through and through.
That's a great thing to have.
I mean, I'll be honest. If I was to sit down on a wrestling game and make it right, I'm going to make 2 just Weasley motherfucking cowardly heel shitheads and trolls. I would give them money pants like the Young Bucks had here. A nice mix in this match between 2 things that the Young Bucks do very well, I think. Number 1 is some kind of comedy stuff, which is,
yeah.
You see like Chuck Taylor in this does like really slow sentons and kind of goofy stuff that some would say exposes the business because it's so goofy. It's almost kind of winking to the audience going, we know it's,
I'd say it's less of a wink and more of a push.
Yeah.
Like a literal shove off the stage, fuck off, we know what we're doing. And yes, you hate it and we don't care.
And the other thing you have in spades is action that can only be described as blink and you will miss it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, non-stop.
It's not like the Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant matches where I could be on Facebook at the same time.
I mean, I'll be honest, I would imagine Hulk Hogan would have a heart attack just watching this.
Yeah.
Even to think about doing any of this stuff.
I was absolutely shocked because my favourite wrestling style is this flip-de-doo kind of Adrian Neville, Seth Rollins style. Yeah. So I was kind of expecting a bit of that anyway, and they just take it even further. They're so much more flip-de-doo.
Oh yeah, I mean...
How are they even real?
They do things which I could, Kenny Omega at one point, he dives to the outside and they both give him a super kick at the same time. And you get a lot of super kicks in this podcast, folks. I mean, take a drink every time we say the word super kick. I mean, non-stop here. But I mean, some would describe the style as overkill. I mean, that there's moves that are done in the first 5 minutes of this match, which in the context of WWE would be a finish for a match.
I think it's, I don't know, maybe this is a controversial opinion, but I think it's important to remember the context here. And it seems like their wrestling style is quite representative of the wrestling style as a whole, maybe for Ring of Honor, that kind of show. It seems to be a lot of high flip-de-doo stuff.
That's what the people kind of come to say. That's what makes it different from WWE.
And I'm obviously by no means an expert. I've only seen a very few number of shows.
Yeah, but you know what you like though, right?
But no, I mean I've only seen a few number of shows of Ring of Honor and stuff, but it would seem strange to me if you went to one of their matches and they didn't do that high-flying stuff.
No, definitely. I mean, I've been to see Ring of Honor, and there is an element of where, all right, now let's see some flips. Yeah. I don't know if that's just me as an audience member expecting too much or then giving too much.
I don't think it's just different, isn't it? It's a different platform in a way. It's a different audience.
It is different, yeah. I suppose the issue that some of you always find it with the old timers, for lack of a better term, is the fact that stuff that they do here in the opening 5 minutes, as I said, will be grounds for ending a match in WWE currently. And if you look back to the 80s, if they did some of the stuff here, that would be grounds for someone, being written off TV for a year.
Yeah.
And these guys are kicking out. You know what I mean? I guess that's kind of where people draw the line. They kind of say that it almost not waters down, but lessens.
I don't think so. I love the main show on WWE. I have my issues with it, but they aren't to do with the wrestling style for the most part.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's different. I like the fact that WWE is a bit slower and it's a bit more paced.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that these matches that we watched with the Young Bucks wasn't.
Well, that's the selling point of PWG.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to honestly sit me down, I'm someone who would catch a main show or some recommended matches from PWG. I do not follow it month to month. But one of the reasons I do follow it is because I will see wrestling that I will not see on WWE. And even NXT, the reason why that's so successful, many would argue, is because they're doing something that you won't necessarily see on WWE.
Variety is the spice of life.
Definitely, very much so. Were you impressed by their double and triple team maneuvers?
Oh, yeah. I actually wrote originally, this is before I realised that they are brothers. I wrote it in my notes, are they brothers? Because they work so cooperatively. I know we mentioned that in the How to Shield episode, that they always kind of have each other's backs. They make the Shield look like they've literally just met on the street.
There is a real sense of continuity.
It's like they are just psychic. I mean, they must be so rehearsed. It makes perfect sense that they're brothers.
Yeah, it's really impressive, the fact that they can pull off the moves that they do so seamlessly, so quickly. And again, it just seems like kind of it's second nature. They're not like people who are communicating or stumbling.
No,
this is all smooth and sleek. I don't think we saw a single botch this entire time.
I'm rubbish for spotting them anyway, but I don't think so.
I'm usually fairly eagle-eyed, but I mean, I don't know there's a lot of guys who are very flippy, who are kind of like synonymous with fucking up a lot.
Oh, right.
Kind of like Sabu is like kind of a notorious wrestler who's like does his flips, but maybe there's a 1 in 2 chance that he'll fuck it up.
Okay.
Young Bucks don't think they've got that reputation at all, you know. They were yelling lots of things which I thought might go over your head, like the fact that they continually yelled "suck it" over and over again.
That's something that made more sense to me as I became more involved in the discussion of how to Young Bucks.
Yeah.
So at first I was really confused by that, and I thought maybe it was just a one-off thing that they did. Now I realise it is a branding thing, basically. It's their gimmick.
It is their gimmick, but it was also the gimmick of D-Generation X, which was Shawn Michaels and Triple H's kind of wrestling
So they
group.
did it first, did they?
Oh yeah, their whole thing, DX, was if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. Suck it.
And did they do the same thing with the arms?
Yeah, they point towards their cross. They would cross their arms over in the sign of an X, but it was the same kind of gesture. And another thing that they do, the Too Sweet, where they, you know, put up their hands in the sign of the wolf and they twist off each other. That would have been something that was very synonymous with the NWO in WCW. So again, it's kind of like appropriating stuff from like hated wrestling groups throughout the years, guys who've been kind of like, you know, insidery and have too much sway and too much power, like DX, because Michaels and Triple H had Vince's ear, and, you know, the NWO, who obviously had management's ear. So some people say it's gimmick infringement, which means they're nicking stuff from someone else. But
that's kind of really funny because they're so... I mean, I hate to use the word anti-establishment with regards to the wrestling establishment, but that's kind of what they are. Like, they're so against everything that WWE is, and yet they're nicking all this stuff.
I mean, I think as well, what's a way to really make, hardcore indie fan, fuck WWE, man, fuck them. And those are the guys who they're going to be able to turn into actual, like, I hate the Young Bucks, proper heel heat. Well, they hate WWE, don't they?
Yeah.
So why don't we just take, and they hate WCW, why don't we just take stuff from, like, mainstream kind of, they're always posing like fucking Hogan and all that. It really, like, makes people hate them.
So is it like the wrestling equivalent of if you had a villain in a movie who's like British?
More or less.
It's just a trope.
Yeah. Exactly, because Americans instinctually hate British because of what you did to them in World War II.
Yeah.
You bastards.
Sorry about that.
How could you? So yeah, I guess that you could liken it to that. I mean, if the Bucks had mustaches, they would be twirling them.
Yeah.
That's all I would say. And also, like, as well, the big trolley stuff that they do. Like, they'll do, like, handspring backflip moves, and then they'll just end up doing, like, a simple rake of the back.
Yeah.
Which is a move you would have more likely seen in How to Hogan than in the Young Bucks. Like, the back rake, you rub your hands on their back. Oh, brother, my back! You know, so lame.
It is.
So
after
trolling.
The triple backflip. They do this one move, which is like, I think it's from Dragon Ball Z, the fusion hat.
Oh yeah, they fuse. Love that.
I love that so much.
I'm just waiting. I mean, if someone's not done it for the Young Bucks, someone needs to do a Steven Universe Young Bucks combined together.
Oh yeah.
You know, unless we find out that the Young Bucks are actually made up of 4 separate younger Bucks.
Right.
I mean, who knows?
I think Crystal Gemcast, we've got a thing going here.
Seriously, guys, you need to get on that stuff. They do an amazing maneuver, which they refer to as the Rushmore bomb, right off the top when he fucking tossed him as far... Oh, God, it was absolutely devastating. There was lots of us screaming. This was the first match we watched with the Bucks. It was the first Bucks match I'd seen in probably maybe around a year or so. And... oh was said a lot, and oh my goodness, and oh sweet Jesus were things which were said ad nauseum in this one.
Well, the very first thing they do in the whole match is kick a guy when he's down. Like, they come out into the ring and kick a guy on the floor. It's so silly.
A real highlight maneuver in this one was when they're going for a brainbuster, which is like a suplex. You lift them up and then you drop them on their heads. But as he was being held up for this suplex, this brainbuster, the Young Bucks did super kicks to the person.
Yeah.
Like, that's like... Alright, I'll tell you right now, Young Bucks, congratulations, because you have got a better imagination than a 10-year-old child with wrestling figures. Because I did some... If I was a booker when I was 10 years old, I would have put some fuckers in the hospital. Okay? Shane McMahon, that figure, I fucked him off the roof of my house.
Oh, my poor Shane.
Because he took the risks. He had to take the big bumps, go through the tables. And I would do everything, like suplex, powerbomb onto a fucking ramp, and all this horrible shit. And the Young Bucks managed to innovate stuff that even I couldn't have thought of at my most violent and young and enthusiastic and imaginative. There was what can only be referred to as a super kick party in this match.
It's a
term
definitely.
Which has been coined by the Young Bucks. I counted 7.
Super kicks.
7 super kicks.
I wasn't counting. It was a lot of them.
What do you like a good super kick?
I thought they were really, impressive. And I thought I would get sick of them throughout the matches that we watched. There's still time. I'm going to watch more Young Bucks. But on the whole, I found them quite funny.
Funny because, again, another reason people would have umbrage with them is that the super kick is like, that's Shawn Michaels, for instance.
Was that him?
That's his finishing move.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And like someone kicking out of a super kick, they'll be like, excuse me, brother. Your name better be The Undertaker, otherwise we're gonna fight right now. No one kicks out of the super kick. And again, they throw them around non-stop, and people have an issue with that. Too many
really
super kicks.
Funny. It's different rules. It's a different show.
It's a different show. And honestly, I mean, Dolph Ziggler and some of the guys like Adrian Neville, they all throw super kicks. So does Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And if you're going to throw one and it not be a finisher, you might as well throw 7 and make people go yay.
I agree that them being on like the whole WWE wouldn't make sense if they were doing all this.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're on a different show. It's different.
It is a different show. And I mean, you can tell from the pace of this where you just have literally guys coming in, move, non-stop. Some say it lacks in psychology because you're just having big moves and then the guy's getting up to take more big moves.
I say that's true.
I mean, and I do get a sense that when I'm watching matches like this in isolation, I'm judging them a lot more fairly than if I was maybe sitting down and watching a 3-hour show where this was happening match on match. Mm-hmm. And I mean, for instance, like the finish of this match comes with we get what's referred to as the Meltzer driver, which is an assisted super duper tombstone pile driver, where one person picks him up for Undertaker's finishing move, and the other book dives off and slams them in, like giving him an extra boost onto it. They call that the Meltzer driver, and Dave Meltzer, we mentioned maybe once before.
Yeah, the journalist.
Kind of the main journalist, the guy who rates the matches, the ultimate insider, and again, calling it the Meltzer driver is pretty much a massive reference and meta and in jokes and all that.
The style of wrestling for this match seemed way more. I know people are going to probably hate me for this, but it seemed more realistic.
I would say.
It's over exaggerated.
Yeah,
but for example, when they kicked people, it seemed to genuinely make contact. And I'm not saying it did,
so
but
when
it looked more like it did than on the main show.
Realistic, you're kind of not saying this is how people would react more.
No, that side isn't realistic.
So realistic in terms of the moves looked...
The moves look real.
Yeah. No, I definitely... I mean, it's a snug style, let's just say.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be sore after this.
Yeah.
They would be... they're taking hard bumps, big flips... out onto the outside, just onto the concrete, onto the floor like that. I mean, this is pretty hard, just hitting stuff. But again, that's the style that's popular at the moment.
There was a chant from the crowd saying, "Let's go Young Bucks," and then the other side was saying, "Fuck the Young Bucks."
I love that.
That's a bit representative, I think, of certainly our Twitter feed.
Well, it is. It's really representative. But if you can take 100 super mega fans and make them unironically chant "fuck the Young Bucks," okay, that is amazing. Because a huge problem, I think, with a lot of these indie shows is that you got a guy and he's meant to be the bad guy, but everyone in the crowd's as smart a fan as you can be.
Yeah,
they've seen it all, and they're just going to cheer the heel for being awesome. And the Young Bucks genuinely make these super fans hate them.
Yeah.
And that's great. It does translate into a lot of hateful Twitter that they get, I'm sure.
Oh, God,
but
I bet.
I like the fact that that's like a John Cena level of polarization.
Yeah.
In that smaller group, I think is incredible.
And all they had to do was break wrestling.
That's it. All they had to do is ignore a few of wrestling's rules and you can get real heel heat. I mean, some people might argue this is the wrestling equivalent of mining for oil in the Arctic, in that yes, you can do it, and yes, you will get oil, but that's really all you can do now. That's really it, guys. I mean, there is an element of that to it, I guess.
Yeah.
I suppose. I'm not denying, though, that it's entertaining as fuck. And I love seeing the fact that the Young Bucks actually had genuine heel heat.
Oh, yeah.
Even though all their moves were fucking spectacular. Like, and it pissed off people in that audience how spectacular those moves were. And I love that so much. The finish of this match came when a wrestler called Trent appears, who had issues with the Young Bucks, gets involved in an emotional distraction, the nature of which I'm not entirely informed on. But it ended up with Chuck Taylor hitting his awesome finishing move, which has got an awesome name. The Awful Waffle.
Awful Waffle.
Awful Waffle. Fucking love it. Love you, Chuck Taylor.
The Awful Waffle.
The Awful Waffle. So the Young Bucks end up losing this one. But again, I think something that's great about the Young Bucks is that because they're such a despised team, but also such a popular team, it really does mean something when they lose.
Right.
It feels like they've been vanquished.
Yeah.
I feel like some people, like, there's people who are watching this who are like, fuck yes! Yes! They're not going, well, that was a great match. They're kind of going, fuck yes! Fucking Young Bucks, you fucking lose! And I love that, the fact that they've managed to tap into this. As a first experience of the Young Bucks, what did you think of this match?
I thought it was amazing. I mean, they did so many incredible moves, and they're so obnoxious, and they were just really fun. I was so prepared going into this match because we'd already had a few tweets from people saying, oh, they're breaking wrestling. And so I thought the high number of super kicks would put me off. And I thought I'd get bored of the fact that there's little or less ring psychology.
Yeah.
But it didn't bother me at all. It was really fun. I don't know if it's because the matches are quite short.
Again, I still wonder if it's watching it in isolation.
Could well be that as well.
I mean, after that, if you had to sit down and watch another 20, 30
That's
minute match...
That's true, I think I'd be kind of exhausted.
And not only would I be exhausted, but I would kind of get the feeling that, a charge that's labelled against them would be, in the following match now, if I do like a tombstone pile drive or whatever, and the guy... doesn't kick out, he's going to look like a fucking jabroni, because in the previous match there was someone doing a springboard super tombstone and they kicked out. Right. Maybe it kind of takes away from some of the... It's difficult to follow, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, that's what makes them an attraction.
I don't know. I mean, I can say normal wrestling is just as difficult to follow. So... makes no difference really to me.
I mean, you still do get tired by the end of a show regardless.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Yeah.
You do get that 3-hour drag. The next match we watched was another one from PWG in 2014. Basically everything the Young Bucks touched in 2014 seemed to turn to gold. But this was the Young Bucks taking on the world's cutest tag team of Candice LeRae and Joey Ryan in a guerrilla warfare match, meaning that there was no disqualifications, etc. Right. Candice LeRae is a fucking incredible wrestler. Joey Ryan is both an incredible wrestler, and I would go as far as to say a style icon.
They're both style icons.
Style icons.
I love their matching. Was it these two with the matching uniforms?
Yeah, they had kind of matching colours and whatnot. Fucking love this.
The very first chant, like, as the match starts, is already, let's go Young Bucks and fuck the Young Bucks. Already. This is before I'd even noted the fact that Kevin Owens is on commentary.
Yeah, that was
awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
Really cool.
Seriously, PWG is like a secret club where all your favourite wrestlers hang out,
It's basically a dream come true. It's like, hey, all those wrestlers that you love and you wish they'd fight more often. Well, you can go back in time and you can watch all of their amazing matches for as many hours as you like.
Well, I'm just squinting over. What's that? Oh, it's Cesaro having a coffee with Adrian Neville.
It's like your dream partner.
It's like you've died and went to heaven and everyone's in this lovely waiting room and wrestling happens to be going on, I love in this match, and one of the reasons why people really wanted you to see this was we chatted briefly before about intergender wrestling and your thoughts on it. And I think if one is to insist on doing intergender wrestling or to do intergender wrestling, I like it to be in this style almost, in that Candice LeRae is not made out like, oh, she's not got testicles, this could be an uphill challenge.
Oh no.
She's a participant. She's like presented as being another wrestler who's just as skilled, just as trained, has her own advantages and disadvantages like everyone else in the match. And the story of the match isn't what are these young bucks going to do to this poor helpless woman? The story of this match is Joey Ryan and Candice LeRae fighting these two guys.
It seemed very natural, the intergender aspect of it.
Because they didn't make a deal about it.
Yeah.
They just presented it.
Did it.
As
it
is.
Happened.
There it is. There's the ring. Go wrestle.
And I think that's a really good way of making women look strong, is not kind of making them out to be delicate flowers that can't fight men. And obviously that's just a personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I thought this match was awesome, and I love Candice LeRae. I thought she was really cool.
I mean, I've not seen much of her
no,
wrestle.
This is the only match I've seen.
Fucking incredible.
This is it, and I decided I love her.
Yeah. I mean, we start off this match with flips out the wazoo.
Really
Candice
good flips.
LeRae actually did a dive to the outside and then caught the person and hit them with a spinning tornado DDT.
Just incredible.
What? That's incredible. It's so fucking good. The Young Bucks in this match dazzled us with tag team maneuvers and flips out the wazoo. They do Seth Rollins' corner powerbomb, but they do like simultaneous kicks into it at the same time. They take all your favourite moves and turn them up to
make them
11.
Better.
Make them better. Make them
all
overkill.
Your favourite wrestlers look shit.
They've leveled up all of the wrestlers' moves on the RPG pathway. Right? They've got all the stones.
Stats to 10.
They've maxed up the stats. You know, they set Gore to max as well. You know,
at one point in the match, they get this bag.
Oh, they're like, oh, what's in the bag?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I was so nervous because, I mean, like I've said before, I got to know wrestling through Mick Foley.
And what does the bag mean with Mick Foley?
The bag represents thumbtacks.
Yeah.
It's always thumbtacks. So when they took it out and they started pouring this stuff on the floor, I was like, oh shit, man. I was really enjoying this. And I really wasn't prepared to have to like steel myself to prepare myself for like loads of blood and things. And not thumbtacks.
No.
Gummy bears.
I'll tell you right now, I'd prefer the tacks because I fucking hate gummy bears.
Oh,
all gummy sweets, they're gross.
It was so cute.
It was very cute. I mean, there's one time they did take out Lego as well. That was the other one. And that was like,
worse.
That's way worse.
Bring back the thumbtacks.
Yeah, who drew the fucking short straw that night? You're doing Lego, you're doing gummy bears. The fuck?
I envy the guy with the barbed wire and the fire.
Yeah, seriously. Next you're going to have him fucking taking body slams onto Toblerone. That shit hurts.
Upturned plugs.
Ah!
The gummy bears were so cute. And they start eating them.
Yeah, they slam onto it. They eat like, ah, yeah, like, you sick fuck.
They literally, the audience chants, you sick fuck.
And I like when it's that meta and the audience is in on the joke because that does make it funnier.
It was really funny and so unexpected. I really thought it was going to be thumbtacks and it just swerved me.
It just completely like plays on the whole trope of if it's in a bag, it's got to be dangerous, brother.
Yeah.
You know? And it just flips it on its head. And it did it because the audience in there would eat it up. I mean, if somebody did that in WWE, you'd probably get mild laughter and then the announcers going, what are they doing?
It was the kind of thing I would have expected from Chikara.
Yeah.
Because they're the nice crowd, which,
family crowd,
you know, they censor the chants and things. They make it nice and wholesome. And I thought it was really cute.
Wasn't cute when they spat them in Candice's face.
Yeah, it wasn't cute when they did that.
Gross. Like.
Yeah, that was really... Why do they have gummy bears anyway? Why do they have gummy bears?
Again, I could be pointing out there's probably some massive reason for it, but all I remember was that there was just this kind of trope of them taking out like the bag and there being something ridiculous in it. It's a Joey Ryan thing as far as I know, not just a Young Bucks thing.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's his innovation, but it's just takes out the bag. There's something silly inside. It's not thumbtacks. I think as well might be a dig at the likes of TNA as a company, which like on a weekly basis at one point was taking out thumbtacks.
Right.
And they would do the whole thing. It was like, the bag. What's in the bag? He's lifted up the bag. He's turned it around. He's pointed at spotlight on the bag, please. What could be inside? Thumbtacks? Who would have thought? You know, and it just kind of, wrestling had killed the mystique of the bag. And I think this was kind of taking it back in a way. I don't know, because it's like, there is intrigue with the bag. What will be in the bag? Will it be glitter? You know what I mean?
It could have been marshmallows.
Might it be Lucky Charms? You know, it could be. Might it be shredded wheat?
Glitter.
Might it be a rainbow? Who knows? You know?
Kevin Owens said, Jesus, just like me.
Yeah.
And Adam and you and all the other people in our little gang who say Jesus.
But yeah, a chair got thrown. And then Kevin Owens just went, Jesus.
Why
don't you fucking tweet him and give him a hard time, you bastards?
God, Kevin Owens, can't you say something else?
Yeah.
Like oh my God.
Or oh my stars. Oh my goodness. Oh my damn.
It must be well annoying having gummy bears all over the floor.
Yeah, seriously.
Sticky. Really Ew. Sticky.
Gross.
Especially when you're wrestling and trying to jump around and be all over the floor and stuff.
You know what? Let's have wrestling sort out the, hepatitis bloodstained mats first, and then we'll move on to gross gummy bears, okay? One battle at a time, okay? I will say this match, having watched it, that I now officially love super kicks more than anything else.
Yeah.
There were some in this match that gave me pleasure akin to a nice glass of wine, The trolls of the Young Bucks set up chairs and then don't use them.
Yeah.
It's been ages doing it.
I loved that. On the one hand, it was infuriating. On the other hand, it was kind of like just so funny.
Yeah. We ended up at one point as well having this kind of Tower of Doom sequence where it looked like the Young Bucks were going to send Joey off the top rope and kill them. And then Candice hits her maneuver on both of them. The ballplex, a double ballplex off the top with both men. It was an amazing spectacle.
I wonder if she flipped all three of them.
Yeah, that was the one I'm talking about. Yeah,
right,
they all went with this one move. It was fucking incredible.
I've just written, she's so cool. I love her.
You should follow her on Twitter and tweet her and tell her how awesome she is.
I'll do
that. We get tandem tombstone pile drivers. I mean, not even the Undertaker and Kane would do that.
They're force-feeding Joey Ryan all the gross gummy bears from the floor. It's really disgusting.
It's inappropriate. It's gross.
The audience is chanting, "You sick fuck" again, which is more appropriate this time.
I think so, definitely.
And then they take out a shoe covered in thumbtacks.
Yeah, and that kind of was quite a scary moment there.
Well, at that point, I was kind of like, ha ha, this is all nice. It's nice gummy bears. Out comes a shoe with thumbtacks. I was like, oh, it must be nice, really. No, they kick it, put on the shoe, and then they kick Candice in the face.
With what I could only call as a death shoe. And this is right as well, where they took out actual thumbtacks, they put some in Joey's mouth, and then they super kicked him in the mouth, and you could just see him go blah and spit out all these tacks. And it was and you had that, and then you had the death shoe, and the match kind of did a 180 in terms of whoa.
Yeah.
We know obviously Joe is a new fan. One of the things which has put you off on some wrestling matches has been
inappropriate use of blood.
Or would you say inappropriate, gratuitous? Is that maybe?
I guess, yeah.
Or excessive? I don't know.
Yeah, gratuitous. Although that's, of course, personal opinion entirely. Every person's limit is different. I found it really upsetting that they suddenly kicked Candice in the head with a shoe of thumbtacks, and she was covered in blood, like so much blood.
Yeah, they kicked her in the face and she kind of went down, and they held this thing where they came back in, and her hair was over her face, and it was quite good because her hair was over her face for so long you couldn't tell that she was just kind of building up this blood, and when the hair went out of her face, she had this complete crimson mask, it can only be described as, and it's not a sight which you see in wrestling. In the Altera podcast recently, we had an episode where Lita accidentally, she got cut open in a match with Ivory. And it's just I think it's just because you're not used to seeing it, you know? You can show me Mick Foley bleeding and it'll make me squeamish. But show me a female wrestler that's busted wide open, I just immediately get quite uneasy. And I did find this to be it shook me a bit, you know?
For me, it just shook me because it was so... They'd already switched it around the other way for me, making me think they were going to be like that and then not being, with adding gummy bears instead. And then they did it back round the other way again, so I was kind of all confused then.
You were swerved!
Double swerve.
Joe's just laying there confused, but she can't change the channel.
There's blood now when moments ago there were gummy bears.
We did have a really incredible rally in the end from Candice, who actually kills both Matt and Nick with tacks and a ballplex.
A handful of them and pours them down one of their trousers.
I think it was Matt's trousers, yeah.
And then she did the suplex thing, only holding him by the crotch.
Ow.
And then there's lots of blood.
Yeah, he got suplexed onto the tacks, and his balls also had tacks. Candice and Joey win what ended up being a fucking warfare, to put it lightly. Again, this match, though, I like when you can kind of have this kind of next level drama, this kind of holy fucking shit, which I think is only possible on a small scale, like in a smaller crowd like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a real sense there that every single person in this crowd was like hanging on every second of the last minute or two of this match because of what they did to Candice and then Candice's eventual rally and win.
Yeah.
It was fucking... I mean, I think if people just say that the Young Bucks is just one speed and they tell the one story, which is loads of moves, and then the match is over. There was drama here.
Yeah.
And there was that kind of, fucking hell, someone has to stop these guys, someone has to rally. There was that kind of...
Yeah, they took it too far.
Yeah, and then
it's like, you want to see revenge.
They made you suspend the disbelief, and I was there at the end. I want these fucking Young Bucks. I want
them
Candice,
to go down.
I want Candice to grab them by the balls and throw them onto thumbtacks, and that's exactly what she did. And I felt very vindicated from that.
Yeah.
So I think almost you have to realize with the Young Bucks that they can use the shit that pisses off so many fans. They can almost use that to make it be a match that's different to what you think it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not just spot. It is kind of lots of spots, and that may be pissing you off, and that's used against you then to build up the finale of the match.
I think it would be very easy to watch, say, that match and just go, oh, well, that was a bit random. There were gummy bears. Oh, then there was lots of blood and thumbtacks and things. But actually I don't know. On reflection, it seems quite thought out.
There was a nice self-contained story in this match.
Yeah, it's like the whole swerve with the gummy bears that you think are thumbtacks, and then they bring out the thumbtacks, and it's all gory, and it's all just and upsetting, and I think that's kind of intentional.
Yeah, it definitely was.
So,
that you were lulled into a false sense of security.
So yes, the mass amounts of blood upset me, but it was supposed to.
Yeah, so again, an interesting one. Maybe a different type of match to what you might have expected.
Definitely.
From the Young Bucks, the way it ended there. Our next match took us to Ring of Honor, that oft talked about number 2/3 organization, where we had another match that was pegged as being one of the matches of the year. From Final Battle, it was the Young Bucks and ACH taking on The Addiction, two of my all-time favourites, which is Frankie Kazarian and the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels, and their partner being Cedric Alexander. What was one cool thing about this match was being able to see the Young Bucks showing their affiliation to the evil heel supergroup formed in Japan known as the Bullet Club.
Yeah, the Bullet Club. That's a thing.
Do you know about anything about the Bullet Club? I mean, other than the cool T-shirt that everyone has or has a parody of.
Yeah, so there's the cool T-shirt. Is the Bullet Club also the one where they do the
they do the Too Sweet sign, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
I like to pretend that I'm a member of the Bullet Club because that's a thing I used to do all the time with my hands.
That's true.
Photographs.
Well, ironically. She wasn't even in the click.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Bullet Club actually set up by... originally as a group for Fergal Devitt, who you may know better as NXT's
Finn Balor.
Finn Balor, yes. The amazing painted up high flying wrestler from Bray, County Wicklow, Ireland. Sure, I know him well. It was originally like his kind of super group, and it was just like, you know, evil Gaijin wrestlers not from Japan, and the whole gimmick was that they cheated.
Right.
And that's in Japan, and we watched some New Japan stuff later on, and in Japan, obviously, you don't cheat.
Okay.
No, as in, you don't cheat, dude. That's not... You can't cheat. How... You can't cheat. Those are the rules, you know? And, like, you'd have things like the Young Bucks costing, you know, Fergal Devitt's opponent the match by interfering. And people would be like, what? like knocking over furniture. What the fuck? Or, like, you know, distracting the referee. Or getting themselves disqualified, like stuff which you see all the time, but in Japan it was like fucking incredible. Aww. I think, you know, I'd love to do a full episode on the Bullet Club, definitely. But the Young Bucks here wearing the Bullet Club t-shirts proudly. Also, the style of the night brought to you by Matt and Nick's Zebra headbands.
Yes.
Oh,
nice.
My goodness.
The room they're in looks pretty cool.
Yeah, they're in this kind of, I think it's out by like an airport as far as I know, but really cool lit little set, yeah.
An airport.
As far as I know, but really, really cool setup. And what do you think to just Ring of Honor's general look, atmosphere?
I really liked it, yeah.
Yeah, they have got TV Ring of Honor.
Right.
You know, they have got the backing of an actual TV
That makes sense.
station.
It seemed a bit more high production.
A little bit more pro. I mean, they do have weekly TV, and they do have pay-per-views that are often fraught with technical difficulties. But they have them nonetheless, you know? Really, really cool atmosphere in this room. I would say almost too cool in the fact that we get "This is awesome" chant before the match even started.
Nice.
I have issue with that.
Really?
I mean, it's obviously going to be awesome. But wait till they do something awesome.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, you chant "This is awesome" at the start of the match, then something awesome happens. Why are you going to chant "This is also awesome"?
True.
You know, I mean, incredible action though in this one.
They came out with streamers.
Yeah,
I half expected them to bring out like a birthday cake and sing "Happy Birthday" like in Frankie and Benny's.
I was expecting them to come out with like air guitars or something like that with the fucking zebra headbands they had on them. Very impressed with this match by all 6 men. ACH, the gentleman who was teaming with the Young Bucks, was someone I've not really watched wrestle before.
He was amazing. Awesome. He was so cool.
He reminded me of kind of Apollo Crews levels of what can this man not do.
He was like a robot wrestler.
Like flips, power, speed.
Come from space.
Charisma. You don't have to be a wrestler. You could be president. Yeah. The option is available for you. Are you telling me that ACH couldn't beat the fuck out of Donald Trump? Figuratively and literally, it would happen.
I can totally understand why people watch indie shows, Ring of Honor and that kind of stuff, because I imagine it must be the best feeling in the world when you see someone who's super talented. Like, if I watched more of this and I became aware of like ACH and followed him more closely, I'd be so proud and so smug when like that person got signed to like the main show. I mean, it must be such a nice feeling.
I've heard like wrestling promoters, like Paul Heyman used to describe saying it's like watching your children grow. When you take someone who no one else thought maybe would have value and you get to see them blossom and become something amazing. And I mean, I saw that Ring of Honor show was back in 2008, and on that show there was Cesaro, Chris Hero, Daniel Bryan, Colt Cabana, you know, big names. Yeah. And like when Cesaro debuted in WWE, I was like literally like absolutely mind blown. And even as well, like the likes of Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt. Yeah. I mean, I remember watching that with my mate Paddy because he was the Irish guy in Japan. We'd stay up, we'd watch, New Japan matches, and we'd tweet him, we'd troll him saying you should have "Don't Pay the Ferryman" by Krista Burgess' entrance music. You still can have that. That's an option for you. But then when Paddy doesn't watch as much wrestling now, but I remember when he debuted, he was like sending me a message going, "Can you fucking believe it?" Like, our boy, Fergal Devitt, he's all grown up, And it is an amazing feeling, and I mean, I would say it's one of the great benefits of watching. You are kind of getting Seth Rollins, I remember we all booed the fuck out of Seth Rollins. Yeah. Because he was like, we thought he was shit.
Still won't forgive you for that one.
But we were like, he's just CM Punk light. He looks crap, and now he's like amazing, and that makes it even better because I saw him at a time where he didn't have a strong connection with the audience or whatever, and now you see him and he's like better in every way. It's incredible. It's an amazing feeling. Absolutely incredible. And one of the nicest ways if the Young Bucks were to sign, that's one of the reasons why I'd love to see it.
I can't wait for the moment when I like a wrestler that's on an indie show and gets signed on a main show. All
right, Young Bucks, you hear it now. Hear it first.
Just do it to make me
better
happy.
Sign so Joe has
so I feel like a real wrestling fan.
How many PWG shows is she going to have to watch before someone signs someone that she's aware of, okay? We do get constant innovation again in this match. We're 3 matches in and I'm seeing moves that I've never seen before. It does make it hard to remember some spots due to the fact that they're in the form of a constant barrage.
I never remember spots anyway. So like I said, it doesn't make a difference to me.
Levels the playing field, I guess.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor had an odd choice in this one, which is the zany overhead camera shots where people be like lying down and be like, whoa! It's kind of like akin to the camera they'd have at the start of Noel's house party where you can see all the audience going, "Way, we're having fun," It's a bit strange. A super kick party does occur again, and we do end up having 9 super kicks in total. Yeah. I'm not counting the fact that the last one was 3 people super kicking 1 man at once. Yeah. And he kicked out. Now that's like...
I think it's funny.
It's fine, but I say, if Shawn Michaels is on the card, maybe don't do that.
Yeah, but he's not on the card.
But he's on the card.
He's literally nowhere near the card.
And he's not going to watch. He simply isn't. He's not going to watch. And even if someone tells him, how upset is he really going to be? Is that all?
Should he really be upset is the question I have, because he's not on... It's just different. It's so different.
I don't know. Maybe some people feel it's strong enough justification.
Totally fine with me if people feel that way. Do not judge them at all. But personally... just don't get it.
I think when it's like, it's apples and oranges,
I don't think
different. You can apply the logic of WWE and how things should be done, or the logic of a territory 20 years ago and say that's how guys should be acting now.
I think because the trouble is, because WWE has had such a monopoly on wrestling for all these years, it's so easy to go, well, that's the way wrestling is then, isn't it?
Yeah.
But why? Why should that be the way wrestling is? Why can't it be all these other things?
It can be these other things. I mean, again, the guys, the old-timing wrestlers who might be complaining who are sitting there with nice Legends contracts, right? You're not out there on the indies trying to fucking sell t-shirts and trying to move merchandise or whatever. So, I mean, again, even if you're kind of someone who's saying that, oh, they shouldn't do this, and even if it's against what you think, I mean, you can't blame them. Because if you are someone who sees this, I mean, I'd be buying a fucking t-shirt afterwards. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, that in its own right is justification. Indie wrestling is a hustle to a large extent. So, you know. There is a good 5-minute period at the end of this match where it was just non-stop.
Yeah.
Moves, spots. Culminating with the Meltzer driver with an extra 450 splash. And then ACH does another 450 splash.
That means nothing to me. But I'm guessing that's a fancy move.
That is, and what 450 splash is when someone rotates 450 degrees. That's right. 90 more than a full rotation. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Bullet Clubbers win this one, thankfully, after that. Amazing match.
So good.
Available on YouTube to watch from Ring of Honor. Do check it out. We then zipped all the way over to the land of the rising sun, in the far east of Japan and New Japan Pro Wrestling, where I just wanted to see, maybe not a match that was the world's flashiest or whatever, but I did want to see a match where maybe we could see the Young Bucks when they weren't just doing turned up to 11. And that's why we watched the Young Bucks taking on the world-class tag team of Gedo and Jado, who I must say is the greatest name for a tag team ever. The world-class tag team.
It's good.
And you can tell that one of these gentlemen is a fucking is a veteran. That when they're walking out, everyone has their Twitter handles, but the one old dude has just got a blank space. It's like, okay, I don't think this boy is going to be taking 10 flips off the top rope and just, kicking out of the Young Bucks Meltzer driver. So I thought that this might be a slower affair. Also, as well, I was wondering what you thought about this one in terms of the Japanese crowd. Obviously, the Japanese crowd is not going to chant "fuck the Young Bucks."
Yeah.
But what their reactions to them, did they kind of interest you in any way?
They reacted very badly to the Young Bucks. They didn't seem to like them at all.
They actually, they booed them.
Dirty heels.
Like, this is a thing which I never thought I'd see. The Young Bucks came out and they did a little pose and they went, "Yeah, baby." And the crowd went, "Boo! Don't you show off those muscles here. I'm so annoyed. Look at them flexing. Grah." It was really, they actually have like proper heat with the crowd.
Yeah, they're really good at building heat with the crowd.
There is like a long tradition in Japanese wrestling of bad guy white wrestler from America who's come with his own customs,
Yeah.
Quite like, the stylings of WWE with anyone from another country ever.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see it being played up here to full effect. They do wrestle a different style here. It's somewhat dialed back, but I would say in a good way. I mean, I get to notice in this match, for instance, the Young Bucks having some like really decent heel work. And not just heel work in terms of they're pissing off the crowd and throwing them with zany moves. They were like cutting off these guys from getting their tags. They were like working them over. They were being vicious. And that was really cool to see that the Young Bucks are more than capable of working a very believable, slightly dialed back style.
Yeah.
That it's not as if they can only do flips.
I thought they were very graceful in this match. It seemed almost like dancing in lots of ways.
Yeah, there was a really cool part where they threw the guys into each other and they did the do-si-do where they kind of link arms and spin around and then they both got super kicks.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. I mean, I don't have a whole ton to say about this match. It was quite a short one. It cropped up on Daily Motion. I would say do check it out, but why this one stood out to me was that I looked at this and thought, well, if the Young Bucks conceivably went to NXT, they could do a more dialed back style. But that makes me wonder, do you think that if they were to sign to WWE, should they kind of stick to the guns of this is our style, this is our brand, this is what we're famous for, we're doing this? Or do you think there should be compromise? And
I think there should be compromise. But I don't think, obviously, what do I know? But on the main show, I don't think it would work because I think they'd have to change too much to fit in. NXT...
as in change on the main show, you don't think it would work in that... the fans would react, but I don't think...
They'd react, but it would break wrestling. It's a different kayfabe, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I don't think
they would make John Cena
players
look like shit.
Yeah, they're not going to be.
It just wouldn't work.
I don't think many people could keep up with them.
No, they would make. It would just show a huge disparity, I think, in the style. I don't think it would work. But NXT's a bit weirder. The caliber of wrestling is higher and different, and that kind of flip-de-doo style anyway. And their whole kind of meta-ness would fit a lot better in NXT than the main show.
And also as well in NXT, you've got mostly very young, very hungry tag teams. And there's not like an established, this is NXT tag wrestling. I mean, NXT tag wrestling is probably the weakest spoke on the wheel of that whole show. Their tag division it's got some good teams, but it's anytime anyone gets big, they just get called up and they start over from scratch.
Yeah.
So you could conceivably, I would say, build around the Young Bucks and then make the styles slightly different. But I mean, there's always going to be compromise, I think, with people do sign. I mean, people were like, Kevin Owens won't be able to do what he does that makes him amazing, and he's getting on just fine.
Kevin Owens has changed slightly as a wrestler as a result. Like, I don't think anyone can say, he's exactly the same as NXT or any of the other shows he did. He's changed, obviously.
But he's still as amazing.
But he's still great, and I think that shows partly the true talent is how...
Yeah.
Not necessarily how much you can change, but if you are slightly adaptable and versatile, I
mean, Sami Zayn is a guy who made his name, his entire image, his entire following was on a character called El Generico, which was the generic luchador. You know, he spoke broken Mexican, he spoke broken Spanish. You know, he had this certain moveset, this certain style. He comes to WWE, he's Sami Zayn, he's not wearing a mask. It's completely different, and everyone was like, that's too much of a change, and he's doing fucking fine.
And I think as well, when it works out nicely, like it has for people like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, it actually makes it quite nice for the wrestling fans who are familiar with them outside of that, because it gives you like something extra to latch onto and be like, did you know they used to do this? It's certainly making it, for me as a new fan, it's so exciting because you get to learn all about these wrestlers that you like and then find out that actually they did this completely different awesome thing in their past. And it's like unlocking. It's like buying a new book of your favourite series. It's like the new Game of Thrones book. It's a prequel.
Like, if you find that the band you love used to have like all these interesting
awesome
bands beforehand, you get all these demo tapes. Like, oh my god! But the Young Bucks picked up the win in this New Japan Pro Wrestling encounter, and a lot of incredible matches with the Young Bucks in New Japan, and there is a thick wedge of them which we're still to watch, and we will obviously post those up on the Facebook and Twitter as and when we are watching them, because I think I don't want to dip my toe too much into Japanese wrestling at the moment, because it is so different, I'm aware, to the kind of stuff we're watching. It's different style, different mentality, different expectations, different crowd. So again, that's something we'll probably visit in more detail down the line.
I have a question about, I suppose, with regards to New Japan Pro Wrestling, but not necessarily just them. Is it really hard wrestling with someone who speaks a different language?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, traditionally speaking, no, because people have been doing it for years and having fucking 5-star matches. You know, Finn Balor is not fluent in Japanese, but he had amazing matches in Japan with people who did not speak.
But he did
English.
Speak some, didn't he? He taught himself.
It usually goes a number of ways. A lot of words are kind of either the names are translatable, or most guys will know the names for the main moves or whatever, and there'll be some middle ground there. Usually how they kind of do is that they might work out a sequence. Sometimes in Japan, the higher up wrestlers will even have like translators and kind of young boys who kind of arrange all this stuff for them.
Okay.
Where they'll kind of tell them, this is the kind of sequence that we're going to do. They might like number the sequences, so then it'll be like sequence number 1, and that's just, and then they know that this is the sequence of moves in a row, so it's kind of pre-arranged.
Right.
That's not to say there's not been some instances of wrestlers who do not speak the language wrestling with someone else and getting in a massive jam. Christian and S.A. Rios is like a match from WWE in like 2000, just a random match. S.A. Rios didn't speak no English, and Christian from Toronto, Canada, didn't speak no Spanish.
Right.
And what resulted was a fucking train wreck. But I mean, another one which they do at Sin Cara, the original Sin Cara, for instance, refused to learn to speak English, but one of the referees spoke Spanish as well, so he would say it to the referee, and then the referee would go over and translate it. So there's no one thick and fast rule, but usually some of the words are kind of mean the same in both languages, sequencing it with numbers, using the referee, using other people, kind of prearranging it beforehand. And a lot of the guys could just go out there and just fucking wrestle and know what the move should be.
Yeah.
And that does happen as well. There's an element of pixie dust, I guess, to that. But yeah, it is interesting seeing guys who don't speak the same language seemingly communicating better than two lads who fucking are bellowing spots to each other in English.
Yeah, I mean, I was incredibly impressed at some of the things they were doing. But having said that, this match wasn't as good as their others, I thought.
It was way, way toned back.
There was a botch, I think, at one
point.
There
was a point where there was like miscommunication where everyone stood around kind of going, the fuck are we going to do now?
What, yeah.
And again, I would say would chalk it up to either a miscommunication or a language barrier or what have you.
But considering everything they're doing and how fast-paced it is and complex, you know.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is the New Japan Pro Wrestling match. It was just one interesting to watch.
Oh, no, yeah.
For seeing that dial back style. The final match that we looked at, and it was one which I kind of decided on showing. Some people had suggested this, and I decided on showing it to Joe, mainly because before this was like my favourite Young Bucks match probably ever. It probably has some hot contention with some of the ones we've went through. But it was from the Chikara King of Trios in 2012, which saw Team Ring of Honor, which was the Young Bucks, and Mike Bennett, who's a hot young upstart who's in that company, taking on a group of wrestlers from Japan called Team Sendai Girls. And this is an incredible story, this match, of the Team Ring of Honor, who are these three dickhead heels working against these three tiny, energetic as fuck, hard-hitting women. I think it was incredible.
You say they're tiny. Those girls had muscles.
Oh, I mean, I say tiny in terms of short,
height, yeah.
As in one of them, I think their head barely went over the middle rope.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, they were suplexing Mike Bennett, who's a big dude.
These had guns.
Powerful women, to put it lightly. I love this match.
It was great. It was so good, I had nothing to say. I've just got, the Sendai girls are incredible, wow.
I mean, they're unreal. Again,
it's perfect.
Three girls who were, for lack of a better term, I mean, they're relatively unknown. They would have been just kind of a team that was arranged. It wasn't like, oh, Team Sendai Girls are going to be at this show. It was just kind of another team, and they absolutely captured the hearts and minds of everyone. And they were this kind of, they'd gotten through into this tournament. They'd won the first round, and now they're up against these dickhead Young Bucks and Mike Bennett, who want to shut down the fun times, and everyone hates Ring of Honor. Boo! You know, I fucking love it. Absolutely great. I love the idea of the King of Trios concept, which is like a giant tournament with 3-man teams. And all the teams are kind of like either from other indie companies, or you might have some like wacky teams or whatever. Like they've had like old-timey wrestlers from the 80s reform 3-man teams just for like 60 years old coming out in the old gear and stuff like that. Really cool concept. And in this match, I recommend you can get it. It was on the Chikara video podcast on their YouTube channel, available to watch entirely for free. And legally do so. It is incredible. Some of the triple team spots from the Sendai Girls are unbelievable.
Just incredible.
And my favourite moment of this match was when the nasty heels, they all go to suplex the Sendai Girls, because they do kind of play up they're bigger and therefore stronger and therefore should win. And all three guys go for a suplex and all three of them reverse it at the same time. Yeah. It's fucking great.
It's just beautiful choreography.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got an insane speed as well, and even though the Young Bucks and Mike Bennett won this match, there was a great moment where the referee was distracted and you actually get to see both Mike Bennett and Matt Jackson tapping out. Right. So that is kind of making these girls look incredibly formidable that caused them to submit. The Ring of Honor team won following an insane sequence of flips and a triple super kick, but a nice little cherry on top of this Young Bucks cake. We've been through a lot of matches, so what were your main kind of takeaway points from watching the Young Bucks matches? Was it fun? Was there stuff you didn't get? What was it?
For the most part, I'd say I got it all, unless there's stuff that just went over my head and I didn't even realise it was going over my head. They're incredibly athletic, incredibly graceful. Even their crotch thrusts are beautiful. Some of the best in the business. You know? And I will say as well, I love their crotch thrusts. This is ridiculous. Niche reference time. But they remind me of Jeremy from Pure Ownage. Something like it's a web series I grew up with, and he does a lot of crotch thrusts, and it's just nostalgic for me. I see that and I think of PC gaming era. They're just incredibly talented, and I thought they were pretty fun. I really enjoyed all their matches. There's not a single one that I didn't enjoy that we watched.
That's kind of saying something.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and again, it was difficult narrowing this down to, like, you know, just because I didn't want to spend all this podcast just talking about matches, obviously. I mean, so, I mean, there's still a lot of stuff, and thank you everyone who tweeted in. So many links to matches and stuff to check out. Again, lengthy playlists that we're going to muscle our way through. You know, there's some great stuff out there.
Yeah.
Would you be inclined to watch more Young Bucks stuff then? I mean,
definitely. And more Ring of Honor, more of that kind of indie wrestling show.
See, I think that's a real benefit to them.
Yeah.
Is the fact that I think, and it's something people overlook, that newish fans who don't maybe know about this whole other world that exists out there, you know, a whole new world. But yeah, I mean, imagine it's you and the Young Bucks and me on a magic carpet flying over, you know, Pennsylvania, where lots of indie wrestling takes place. But you are being drawn to this now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is, I don't know if I'm speaking on your behalf too much here, but this seemed to make you more lean towards Ring of Honor than me going, and Seth Rollins came from here, and CM Punk and Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, that all registered with you, but I think it was until we watched these matches that you kind of seemed just like, oh.
Yeah, because I think it's easy when you go like, oh, these amazing wrestlers all came from there. It's easy to kind of in the back of your head go, yeah, but they might have been shit then.
Yeah.
It's like seeing a match currently, or at least recently, in that show, and seeing how good it is, it's kind of like evidence that, oh, okay, it's that style of wrestling.
So you've come out of this not just with an appreciation from the Bucks, but also a bit of a flavour for indie wrestling.
Yeah, and intergender matches as well.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm actually quite curious about, and I have a question regarding, is are there any women that have joined WWE after doing intergender matches?
As in people who became famous for it or were known for intergender matches?
Yeah, at least people who've done it regularly, you know.
Jazz, who would have been a pretty, like, a mainstay for WWE in the early, mid-2000s, she primarily was famous in ECW, that she was so tough she wrestled the men, because the women didn't take wrestling seriously there, so she was like, fine, I'll wrestle the men, and she did, and that was kind of her main gimmick, really.
Right.
So she would have been someone who was known for that. I mean, obviously, Sarah Del Rey, who is now the head trainer, is someone who has made a huge name for herself doing, you know, intergender matches.
Cesaro's wife.
Cesaro's wife. And
yeah.
she actually fought Cesaro as well.
Really?
Once. Yeah.
Jesus.
So again, there's a lot of wrestlers who do that. And I think it's something that's becoming more and more prevalent on the indies, as women's wrestling is not being viewed as a separate thing, as
exactly.
It's being kind of viewed as almost being as an equal, or as, you know, just more competitors, that intergender matches are becoming a lot more commonplace. I mean, I've seen a lot of indies in the UK that are promoting intergender matches, and honestly, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I don't think that just anyone could do it. I'm not even sure that, I don't think WWE
certain
could do it.
style of wrestling, I think, it does suit the kind of the flip-heavy, fast-paced style.
And you need the right writers as well. Like, that's the thing. I'm not sure I have enough faith in WWE at the moment for them to do it on, like, with their divas.
Yeah, don't be booking Brock Lesnar versus Sasha Banks.
They'd fuck it up.
You somehow fuck that up, even though that seems like it could be amazing.
No, they'd make it weird.
Yeah, they probably would. Have Paul Heyman go through her underwear or something like that.
Yeah, nick it or something weird.
So that is a crash course in some Young Bucks matches. We got a lot of exposure there. The matches were important. The background is important. But possibly the most important yet to come. Let's take a look at some tweets about the Young Bucks using the hashtag #HowToYoungBucks.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Chikara's second pay-per-view. And of course, the mother-freaking rock stars, Matt and Nick Jackson, are in the house.
Yeah, we are.
Tonight, it's a strange dynamic. The belts are on the line. We're wrestling fists. Johnny Gargano and Chuck Taylor. Two guys at Philadelphia, and the rest of the Chikara fans don't really like.
No, they don't.
Philadelphia loves the Young Bucks.
They do.
But little do they know our real intentions.
Tell them.
See, tonight, we're going to take those belts. We're going to take them hostage, like that Bruce Willis movie from the 2000s. You probably don't remember. It was a really good movie.
That.
But we're going to take those belts hostage, and we're going to take them to Ring of Honor, where they're going to have a real spotlight.
On television.
Where people are going to see them.
Yeah.
So tonight marks the beginning of a journey. A journey where the Young Bucks continue our success as the most amazing tag team in professional wrestling today. Jakarmi, watch for the most amazing tag team in professional wrestling. Nick Jackson, Matt Jackson, we're going to give you guys more bang for your buck. We're going to hold those belts and make them proud, huh?
Oh, it's going to feel good.
See you guys out there.
So all of these came in on Twitter and also on Facebook, people using the hashtag #HowToYoungBucks, and I think as we mentioned earlier, one of the most socially active hashtags we've had so far.
Yeah.
Wow, people have a lot to say. So let's hear some of the tweets.
So Motor City Soul on Twitter said, gimmick infringement everywhere. Which makes sense to me now.
Yeah, gimmick infringement is a serious charge if you're stealing someone's stuff. And again, I would argue that it is as a part of the character and the heel work. Some people say that's not good enough, but I think that's their justification for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Ryan Smith said, sometimes I watch Raw and I'm left feeling drained. I always have fun when I watch a Young Bucks match. I think that's true. After a long show like Raw, you do kind of feel tired.
I mean, we're recording this on the day when we could be watching Raw.
Yeah.
And honestly, the thought now, when I've heard that it's not great, the thought of watching 3 hours of that does fill me with dread.
Yeah.
Because I know I would watch it. Mm. But I think now and then it's kind of like, you know what? Don't have a takeaway pizza. Have a salad, Kevin. Okay. High energy. It's better for you. Watch a Young Bucks match. You know?
Or in our case, a Nigel Slater home cooked.
Showing off.
Yeah.
Just saying, I did make an amazing vegetable bake.
So good.
Late winter vegetables. Check it out.
JT Grasby says, loving Christians who super kick women with thumbtack shoes on the weekends. 5 stars. John Cena fan 62. I'm sorry, your username makes me laugh a lot. Says, entertaining, amazing wrestlers, humbled. They make what shouldn't work.
Yeah. Again, I don't think maybe one of the dangers about the Young Bucks, with some people might view it, is that because they are setting this precedent and this is the kind of style, a worry might be that younger wrestlers who are just getting in, just getting trained, thinks that that's what they have to do. And you might see people who aren't like the Young Bucks and maybe not be as skilled. I mean, Young Bucks are obviously a team that's been around for many, many years. These guys have got a lot of years on them,
yeah.
You know, and the only reason they can pull off this style is because of who they are. And I think a danger would be that, yeah, other people might try this and you could have injuries or just burn out a roster or burn out a fan base for an indie. That is always a possibility. That is very much a doom and gloom way of looking at things.
I would really hope that any new fledgling wrestler would kind of take opportunity to cash in on the things that they're best at. If they're good on the mic, for example, then that's just as important as...
Again, I think it's just like, it's a thing you saw in the 90s when Foley went off the Hell in the Cell and became famous for kind of barbed wire and thumbtacks. Then everyone was trying to do barbed wire and thumbtacks,
right.
And that was obviously dangerous. I think this maybe in its own right could also conceivably be where you have people trying to set this fucking ridiculous standards that maybe other people can't live up to. And, you know, I think the seamlessness at which the Young Bucks do their moves and the crispness of the matches and almost, as you said, like the psychic nature, it would seem, of it might just make people think that, fuck yeah, I can do that. And honestly, 99% of indie wrestling accidents happen when someone thinks they can do something that they've seen and they probably can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's like a problem on like lower level indies, and that it could very well be an issue.
Yeah. 100% Adam said, no sense, but it's fun and causes everyone to fight and hate each other.
A lot of people have compared the Young Bucks, I noticed on Twitter and whatnot, to it being like a dumb action movie. Turn off your brain, enjoy it, grab some popcorn. And I do think that mentality does certainly benefit a lot of those matches, but I do think there's a little bit more to it. I mean, I think definitely in the second PWG match we watched, there's sometimes deeper story there. It's not just moves and flips. They can grab you by them emotional heartstrings as well. So that is in there.
Alternate opinion here from Captain Trash. I'm not calling them Trash. That's their username.
That's a great username.
Praised for innovation when really all they do is add a flip to a pre-existing move.
It's true. And again, though, I would say, is that making someone pissed off? And if it is that making that person want to pay to see the Young Bucks get beat? I might be reading into that way too much.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dapper's Den said never liked them because after you strip away all the snarky tweets, I've simply never found them entertaining in the ring. I think for some people, they're just not going to enjoy that style.
I think a lot of the reason why you and I may find it quite enjoyable and entertaining is a large part the novelty factor.
Yeah.
There is an element to that to it. If you were someone who was... I mean, I've followed Ring of Honor religiously only for like maybe 1 or 2 years and kind of semi-seriously for a few more. And in the last 2 years, not really that much at all. And honestly, if you were someone who was watching that style of wrestling, knew all the indies, knew all the ins and outs, knew all the matches that were happening, the 5-star stuff, you would probably not maybe view it as being as special as it is. Even though I still think that there's something a little extra there that you mightn't get with regular stuff. But the style in terms of like a fast-paced style, you do see that quite a lot. So it has maybe been done before. And I think some people might just simply not be entertained by it because it's not unique or not a spectacle for them because they've seen similar. Even though I do think it's still very much a level above.
It's interesting to say that because Chris Shomo said, some claim they are all spots, but the more you watch, the more you understand their act.
Yeah. And there is an act there, and it's not just... If you think the Young Bucks are literally going out there going, duh, let's do another flip, because that is what wrestling is. They know what they're at, guys.
Yeah.
You know, they really do.
Yeah, they seem to have a pretty solid understanding, not only of them, but their audience.
I mean, the tweet from the Young Bucks that always rings true with me is the famous one that says, every time an old-timer buries us publicly, we add 5 unnecessary flips to our arsenal. Okay, they know what they're doing there.
They do.
It's very, very much they're aware, all right? I'm worried that a lot of wrestling fans, it's like Borat has come or Nathan For You has come and they don't realise that they've signed the thing and they're going to look like a fool on the hidden camera show. Yeah. I am concerned about that.
Adam Reese said, I don't really like their arrogance and can't understand why they'd turn down WWE just for bigger indie money. That and they won't shut up about Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
What is this deal with Jim Cornette?
We mentioned Jim Cornette before being the yin to Paul Heyman's yan, or yan to Paul Heyman's yin. In that very outspoken, I think he's a genius. I don't agree with a lot of his theories and whatnot. But Jim Cornette is very much... Wrestling was at its best in the late 70s, early 80s when there was territories, there was believability, people paid because they want to see a guy get beat or they believed in the babyface.
Back in the good old days when a headlock could last 10 minutes.
Yeah, and again, there's that element to it. He is very much, he will be at the forefront pushing towards the idea that, you know, you've done a flipping tombstone pile driver with a guy flipping off the top rope to add weight to it and the guy kicks out. The next match, what are they going to do? You know? Right. And he's approaching it from the point of view, I would suppose, as a wrestling booker, and he was someone who did book Ring of Honor, and he had a lot of problems with a lot of guys, and like Kevin Owens was another one he had problems with for the same reason, which is he's trying to book a show with 9 matches on it. He wants to keep things a certain way. He doesn't want to give away too much. He just want to blow the roof off the building every 5 seconds. He wants there to be pace, and they're not going to do that.
Right.
That, in its essence, is the beef there, and they have issues with him because they left TNA to go to Ring of Honor and they don't feel that he gave them, you know, the treatment that they deserved. Their contract expired, you know, they let it run out of money and they took a pay cut to go there and they had young families at the time. So there's more to it than just, we think wrestling should be like this and you think wrestling should be like that. That is how it appears publicly, but there is bad blood underneath the surface there, I think, on both of their parts. And Cornette is someone who, again, labelled the accusation of unprofessional to the Young Bucks. So take that for what it is.
As for the bit about turning down WWE for bigger indie money, from what I've seen, they are very family focused.
Yeah.
And they don't like the idea of not wrestling as a tag team, which makes sense because they work so well together.
If WWE ever manages to successfully sign someone to take a considerably lower amount of money than that person could make elsewhere, then that is the beginning of the end for WWE and I think for wrestling as a whole. You're going to kill off people's desire to go there. It's happened with a number of wrestlers where they're like, right, you want to come to NXT? Cool, that's 40 grand a year. No merch probably for the first 6. You know, you're going to start off at the bottom, developmental, go to the performance center. I get that's part of the process and everyone has to do that now. But you can't undercut guys who can make nearly twice that, if not 3 times that, doing it themselves. And it's not as if...
That's not celebrating the free market.
It's not. And again, you got to go where you're going to make the most money.
Yeah. And also, if they've got little kids They need support and stuff just as much as...
Here, fucking David Cameron with your 0 hours contract. Stop trying to get the Young Bucks to fucking do an unpaid internship in Florida at Full Sail. Okay? You'll make £2 a week and get a £4 lunch surcharge. But you won't be able to provide for your wife and child. You know, it's not... I think anyone who's going to go, how dare they turn down the WWE? You should be thankful to go to WWE. Be happy that they're after you, but go for the most money. And, fucking duh.
Well, not just what's the most money, but what suits you. Like, I'm sure money isn't going to be the main factor for a lot of wrestlers getting into this. If you've got kids, though, bearing in mind, you've got to stay where their schools are. You've got to be able to be there for them as a parent if that's what's important to you. I think it's I think, to be honest, I think it's a bit of a gender thing as well, because if they were female wrestlers, there'd be absolutely no issue of the fact that they want to spend time near their families.
Yeah, it's true.
Have a home base and everything. But because they're kind of not, that's not necessarily expected of them.
Yeah.
If anything, working harder is expected of them.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think it's really admirable.
I do think as well. And I mean, again, you look at it like this. It's not as if they're kind of going to go in 2 years' time. They're like, oh, they turned us down 2 years ago. Rip up any potential contract. I would argue they're worth more now than they were then.
Yeah.
And you see people now coming into NXT, the developmental system, like Samoa Joe, who would have been a big indie name, and he's obviously got a special contract now because they recognise that he's someone who's got name value from the stuff he's done on the indies. And I think you could expect, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it was to happen, I would expect a similar scenario with the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
Where they're not going to start at the rock bottom, because that's just silly.
No. Eamon Patton said, a team that was very talented in the ring for years, but in the last few truly understood the role of marketing.
Oh, yeah. If you look to the people who are truly successful on the indies, the likes now of Colt Cabana, Chris Hero, the Young Bucks, they're all people who know that you have not just got to make a fan, you've got to make a follower, someone who's going to tweet about you and your shows, promote your shit, buy your shit.
Yeah.
You know,
you've got to be business people, really.
I mean, again, it's a hustle on the indies, and no one is going to give you money unless you really put yourself out there and go for it. And the Young Bucks have sold a lot of fucking t-shirts.
Yeah, I keep hearing that they're excellent t-shirt salesmen.
That's what they describe themselves as primarily as being t-shirt salesmen.
Do they sell a lot of t-shirts then?
Oh yeah, fucking hell yeah! It's just like they're quite popular. You can check out the Young Bucks. They've got their Pro Wrestling Tee store or whatever. But I mean, they've got a lot of t-shirts. They sell them. They bring them themselves to the show. That's cash in hand. I mean,
I'm looking at their shop now. Super Kick, Super Kick, Super Kick, Super Kicks on one. The Kings of Super Kicks. Super Kick Party. Yeah, they're so self-aware,
I'm just saying Super Kick 64. You guys can have that one for free, okay? Just saying, one of you flying with the wing gimmick on your hat, it would work totally.
I really like some of these t-shirts.
Oh yeah, they're awesome t-shirts. They're great. And again, I mean, you're going to have fans, they're not going to buy one t-shirt, they're going to buy all t-shirts. It's a thing then for a lot of fans that when there's a new... Yeah, it's smart. It's really smart. And that's how you can't rely on payoffs for indie shows. People aren't going to spend fucking people aren't going to spend like more than $20 for a ticket to go to an indie show. So the cut's not going to be huge, but they know that everyone there is going to buy a shirt, and that's like 50 to 200 people spending $20 on a t-shirt. That's smart.
Yeah. Okay,
and again, that's not them being fucking sellouts or evil or being in it for themselves. It's them making money for their families,
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Senor Gobbles asked this very serious question. This could cause a tag team breakup, but which of the Bucks is more handsy?
Oh, damn. I'm just gonna say Matt. Maybe it's because Dan drew him more handsy for the artwork.
Which one's Matt again?
Matt is the guy with the big sideburns.
Oh no, I think. Oh, it's really difficult because they look really similar and yet really quite different when you've got a picture of them up side by side.
Can we split each of them down the middle and then graft the other half onto each other?
That would be good.
Yeah?
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because I'm not normally a fan of sideburns, but I will say I think he pulls them off. Excellent. And I'm definitely not a fan of ponytails, but again...
Again, we all have to make sacrifices.
The Future said, no ring psychology, horrible ego, surprisingly over. Made the super kick normal. HBK is rolling in his grave.
And he's not even dead yet.
HBK, that's Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, yeah. So Shawn Michaels, innovator of the... Well, not say the innovator, but definitely the man who made the move famous.
So has he had a vocal opinion on the super kick?
No, not to the best of my knowledge. Again, I think
someone should ask him.
speaking on his behalf. Again, I don't think Shawn Michaels really gives a shit.
Nah.
To be honest, okay? He's retired.
This is something I never understood. When you first told me that wrestlers have finishing moves that other wrestlers can't use, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
Well, again, you look at the Young Bucks. They use super kicks willy nilly, and they do tombstone pile drivers, finishing moves of Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker, who are basically the two stalwarts of WWE legacy. You know, so again, that's maybe where people get a little bit sensitive about that.
Mm-hmm. Nice Guy Vinny said WWE No Mercy N64 tribute tag team.
Yes, someone described it. I think they're wrestling. They wrestle a match as if they're going for the World Heavyweight Championship on the single player mode on No Mercy. In that, it's like, I'm not giving you my finisher and pinning you. I'm doing it 3 times while I still have my special meter filled because I'm fucking making sure. Because I'm not taking on the Road Dogg again. Not tonight. Not any night. So yeah, definitely. I would definitely say they are No Mercy through and through.
Finally on Twitter, we have, of all people, Max Landis.
Really?
Yeah. Saying, I always thought of the Bucks as kind of sociopathic 8-year-old boys who don't understand the consequences of their actions.
Well, I think the consequences of their actions is money in their pockets, and they're only too aware,
yeah.
I would say. But in terms of the wrestling characters, like they do have this kind of remorseless quality to them, almost. I mean, super kicking a child...
Yeah, sociopathic, I guess that's kind of true.
I mean, what they did in
8-year-old boys.
As in, I think if the Young Bucks could, they would have taken out a giant magnifying glass and burned Joey Ryan alive with the sun. If they could have, they would have. And I would definitely agree with the 8-year-old stereotype on that front.
Okay.
Just a few ones we had over here at facebook.com/howtowrestling. David Crawley saying, the Young Bucks have a brilliant gimmick where if they're ever doing something in the ring, you think it's bad, then it's actually on purpose to make the people angry and secretly really good. They can't lose. Again, I'm wondering if I've maybe worked myself into some sort of logic time warp throughout this episode. But again, at what point is it layers and layers of meta? At what point is it just them just pissing you off? I mean, it could still happen, you know?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to kind of define.
And I don't want people to think kind of me gotta go like, or us saying, hey, it's meta, therefore you can't be mad.
Oh, no.
You can be mad.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
It's entirely opinion.
I mean, it's opinion based.
Preference,
it doesn't bring my piss to the boil, but I'm sure a lot of people, it will put the kettle on the hob for you.
I ain't gonna sit down and force anyone to watch the Young Bucks if they hate them.
Kevin Poole, who actually requested this episode on Patreon, being one of our $50 backers, said 2 of the best wrestlers on the planet and the best tag team currently. I would say they're definitely way up there. In terms of match quality, no other tag team is doing what they're doing. Matches like this, the one that they included, which was Young Bucks and ACH versus the Addiction, which we watched from Ring of Honor. It says, matches like this are the reason why Ring of Honor is my favourite wrestling promotion right now, okay? People say their lack of psychology is the reason that they're terrible, but if it's between a 70s to 80s style match full of psychology with god-awful in-ring work versus a Bucks match with no psychology and mind-blowing ring work, I'll choose that Bucks match every single time. You can hate what they're doing to the sport, but you can't deny their athleticism. I think that's definitely true. Gordon Wingate here, another quote from Jim Cornette, who describes them as being professional video game characters for a living. Again, that's a kind of a whole style of wrestling people would say, which is the kind of move up, video game wrestling. Not real wrestling. Again, some people it pisses them off.
Preference,
definitely. Dave Meltzer's favourite tag team, says Alan Dill. Dave Meltzer, like, literally, anytime he gets a chance, he's like, oh, you know, they named their move after me. We know, Dave!
Aw, that's nice.
We know! Write that newsletter! Get back to work, Dave Meltzer! Stop talking about the Young Bucks! No one else named a move after Dave Meltzer.
I'm just saying, surely that's the best way to get, like, into the... I don't know, being talked about by the wrestling community. Get Dave Meltzer on your side talking about you all the time.
Well, Meltzer has got, like, he does his Observer Letter News Awards, so his Observer Newsletter Awards every year, so it's like, you know, best match, best heel, best face, best tag team, and they said that their goal is to win every single one. They're on their track to probably doing it, like, but Armando Fuentes here hypothesizing that maybe they should say "I'm sorry, I love you" each time they do a super kick. Might give it a little bit more poignance like that. And Brad Jones as well here, pointing out the Bullet Club gimmick of using those NWO and DX cliches and mannerisms to get heat in Japan as an invading faction, but maybe saying that on American shows that makes them get unfairly branded as unoriginal as a result. Again, that kind of the actions that they're doing in Japan, it may seem as kind of legitimate heat, and then back here it's kind of being viewed as like, oh, you're just doing, other wrestlers' stuff.
Yeah.
Spot heavy, but always fun to watch, and I would probably second that.
Just before we cut off Facebook posts, we got a great one from Cole Campbell saying, what I love and assume what everyone else loves about the Young Bucks is how much they've changed in the last few years. When I first saw them in 2009, they were incredibly athletic high flyers with an old school rockers look about them. They were fun to watch, of course, but that was it. And in a world where we have promotions like DG USA, PWG and Chikara, just high flying won't make you stand out. So in a fit of frustration with TNA and Ring of Honor's management, the Bucks stopped caring about how they were perceived and just started being themselves. And what they are at their core is wrestling fans. They adopted DX's suck it and crotch chop to anyone who dared call them vanilla spot monkeys. If someone said they did too many unnecessary flips, they did even more. And if someone said they had devalued the super kick, they would do more of them too. And by turning their back on the labels that everyone has placed on them, they've become actually the most sought-after talent in all of wrestling. They're so over an independent promotion in New York, 2CW, named one of their events, "We booked this show because it was literally the only available date for the Young Bucks." Which is so funny.
No, seriously. Nail absolutely smashed on the head there. And you know what? It's something that they was always used to say. And it would be the likes of Jim Cornette and whatnot who will always say for these, the young guys in the indies, oh, great wrestler, great flips, great athleticism. Where's your character? Where's your personality? It's a label that was given for Cesaro, Daniel Bryan. Anyone who came out of that Ring of Honor, it was like, they use the term vanilla midget, which is like, yeah, you can do your flip-de-doos and all that, but you got no personality, no star power, and no one's going to care about you.
What the hell does that even mean? It sounds incredibly offensive.
It is incredibly offensive, but
Yikes.
I mean, what they've done is that they have shoved that right back in the face of anyone who would say, indie guys with your flips, no character. They got fucking character in spades.
Yeah.
And guess what? Those people are still pissed off. So what is it that you want, guys? Really, really great stuff. Appreciate all the comments, messages on tweets, Facebook and Twitter. Absolutely incredible. Do make sure you check out the comment threads on Facebook for this episode to see some of the discussions taking place there. A lot of divisive opinion, particularly on Twitter. Follow that using the hashtag #HowToYoungBucks.
Yeah. So a couple of people actually suggested on Twitter that I approach the Young Bucks on there because they don't have as big an audience as, say, John Cena. So they're more likely to actually respond. They seem to use social media quite well.
Oh, yeah, they're awesome on Twitter.
So I just sent them just out of the blue. I was like, I'll just give it a shot if they don't reply. Like with the Hulk Hogan trying to get a retweet thing. Who cares if it doesn't happen? So I just sent them a quick tweet saying, hey, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, how would you describe the Young Bucks? Any idea why there's such a love-hate disparity with you? And they actually replied, which is awesome. And hey, Young Bucks, if you're listening, thanks. That was really
awesome.
Cool.
That's really cool for a new fan to get tweeted by a wrestler when they ask. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I did freak out.
You marked out?
I marked out, yeah. And their response was really on point as well, which made me like them even more. I'll read them out. Matt Jackson said, we're self-aware athletic t-shirt salesmen who host infomercials called wrestling matches. We aren't heel or face. We're our own genre. We're our own style. We don't follow tradition. We're different. We're everything that shouldn't work, but does. Most wrestlers want to create a fight atmosphere. We want to create a party. But most importantly, we're fathers and husbands. People will always love or hate something that's popular and wanted. So I thought that was nice.
That's really well sums up
cool
quite
what
nicely.
They said.
I would say that was uncharacteristically reserved for them. I was expecting them to say how fucking awesome they were in 20 tweets or less and then maybe super kick you. And I will thank you right now for not super kicking my girlfriend. Thank you very much, guys.
I appreciate it too.
Appreciate that. Peace in our time.
I then continued the conversation. I never know how to end it. I'm inappropriate.
Keep her lit.
So I then said, P.S. I love your flares, in that I actually hate them, but they're perfect. And I was thinking with this one, they're either going to block me or they're going to go, she gets it. And you know what they said? They said exactly, with a little winking emoticon. So I get it. Hey. And I feel really cool.
You know what? This whole podcast will be a lot more easier if you fucking wrestlers out there actually take the time to explain. I haven't got fucking all day to be doing this. You fucking do it. You explain it to her. Okay? Thank you very much, Young Bucks, for tweeting. That's fucking awesome.
But wait, there's more.
Oh my goodness.
And this is the bit that Kevin really didn't know about because I've been keeping it a secret. So, based on the fact that they replied to all my tweets, I was getting a bit cocky at this point, and I was like, okay, what else should I ask them? So I asked them the most important question of all.
Oh.
I said, Young Bucks, who is the most handsome member of the Shield?
Mother of God.
And do you want to know what they said, Kevin?
I bet you they said fucking Seth Rollins.
Do you want to know what they said, Kevin?
What did they say?
Do you want to know what they said?
All right, just say your mind. I'm not your enemy at this point. I'm not Adam Bigelow.
Do you want to know what
I'm not your mother, okay? All right, this should either be taking place in therapy or with those people. Don't direct your hate at me.
I said, who is the most handsome member of the Shield? We have a long-running debate about this, and I feel your input as pros would help settle it once and for all. And Matt Jackson replied, saying... 2 words, right? Rollins, abs. Boom!
Wow!
It's official.
I thought there's some
Seth Rollins wins.
I thought there was some sort of like dad code that they would automatically vote for the dads.
No, because you know what? The Young Bucks have taste.
Yeah, they're also heels. Okay, what you say? You're clearly fucking heels, man. How are you enjoying those brand new Apple Watches, boys? How's that trip to Hawaii?
Seriously though, I cannot.
Awesome.
I cannot emphasize how much my dream has come true with
awesome.
These incredible wrestlers who I've just discovered.
Oh, sorry, there's a knock at the door. It's a bouquet of flowers from the Young Bucks. Foot-shaped flowers. Wow.
I would join them and become like massive Seth Rollins fans with them.
That's awesome.
Worship his abs.
That's so fucking cool.
So there you go.
Well, yeah, it's like they say, life is like a hurricane here in Buckberg. So couldn't help but think of the Young Bucks and then just think of the DuckTales theme song.
Oh, yeah.
Because, they might do a super kick or just act like a dick. Bucktails, woo, every day they're out there making bucktails, woo. I mean, someone can Photoshop that if they want to.
Do it.
I mean, I think it needs to be done, okay?
Do it, if only because I can imagine how long Kevin spent on those lyrics.
Well, I started off, I did have the whole thing. I was like, life is like a hurricane here in Buckberg. It's a buck blur. I didn't, but it's too long. It's too long. And again, until someone does like an animated TV series where Matt and Nick have got our ducks flying around in the plane solving mysteries with Scrooge. Kickstarter.
Make it happen.
Well, that was How To Young Bucks, and that was honestly so informative for me.
Yeah.
Was it informative for you?
Yes. I mean, I've gone from literally having never heard of these guys to feeling like I could actually have a conversation with a Young Bucks fan, or even themselves, as I've proven. I've done it on Twitter.
Now, obviously, previous episodes of How To Wrestling, sometimes the end of this episode is kind of like a, fuck, glad enough to talk about that again, but would you consider yourself to be interested in continuing your fandom?
I love them. I think they're great. I love all their marketing stuff. And I think they're really incredible wrestlers, and I'm really excited as well because there are rumours about them possibly debuting on NXT at some point. And maybe it's all bullshit, who knows? But I'm excited either way.
Yeah, definitely. If they continue to do what they do, it'll be awesome. If they go to WWE, it'll be interesting as hell. So I mean, I'm definitely excited. So thank you everyone for helping out with this special episode, How To Young Bucks, and thanks again for Kevin Poole for being our first $50 Patreon backer to request an episode, and that's a fucking barn burner of a one there.
Thank you, Kevin Poole, for introducing me to a tag team that I'm genuinely a big fan of now.
Boom! That's all you fucking want from an episode of How To Wrestling, really. Our next episode, and one which I'm fucking ecstatic about doing. We like to obviously do classic wrestlers, current wrestlers. Our next episode is going to be on a tag team which is definitely very much classic, but also has recently returned to WWE, therefore making them incredibly current. And it's a group who Joe only saw for the first time wrestle at Night of Champions, but I can't wait to show her all about them. I'm talking about Bubba Ray and Devon, the Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
Our next episode of How To Wrestling, in the style of the tradition, either Joe Graham or myself, most likely Joe, will end up through a table as we take a trip to Dudleyville and look at the madhouse that is the origins of the Dudley Boys, their time in ECW, WWF, TNA, and beyond. I do want to focus on this episode primarily on their role as a team. I think we might do a separate episode because Bubba Ray has had a quite lengthy solo career.
Okay.
I think that will probably be its own episode, if I'm quite honest. So, anything which you want to tell us about the Dudley Boys in terms of what Joe should know, in what matches she should watch, opinions on them. Bubba Ray and Devon are people who have rubbed some fans the wrong way, myself included. Even though they're my favourite tag team of all time, I do have a story about that one, which I've regaled before in the Attitude Era podcast. But any personal stories about meeting the Dudley Boys, how they were, matches we should watch, promos we should see, most definitely. There's some ECW promos I know that Joe should see. And also maybe any discussions, because I mean, you know, there's a lot about Dudley Boys and women and tables. Something we've discussed on the Attitude Era podcast a lot. So I would make a special mention for any fans who have listened to those episodes or heard us talk about that before to maybe pitch in your 2 cents. So Joe has another opinion maybe about that whole issue about the Dudley Boys. Needless to say, one of the most important tag teams of all time. And I'm very, very excited to do one amazing tag team in the Young Bucks and now moving on to another amazing tag team in the Dudley Boys. Times are good here in How To Wrestling.
They are.
Match quality has improved significantly now that we got fucking Hogan out of the way.
Yeah, God.
And I was all we have to do now is remind you to make sure you are following us on Twitter, and you're going to be using, of course, for our new episode, the hashtag HowToDudleys at How To Wrestling. Tweet in, let us know what your thoughts are as well. Facebook.com/HowToWrestling. You can leave us fan art, spoofs and goofs. We have images up there, episode artwork with ongoing discussions, comment threads where you can suggest stuff for new episodes, or just pop by to say hello. We have gotten amazing fan artwork in the last
some incredible stuff.
Wow.
Wrestlers doing fun things in their spare time. Divas on their day off.
Joe curb stomping Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
With a fucking Joe Graham, Seth Rollins logo t-shirt.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Kevin doing a Hulkamania Pastamania promo on me while I eat pasta.
Hulkamania,
currently our cover photo.
Pastamania. But yeah, guys, it was awesome stuff. I mean, keep it up is all I can say. I mean, we will look and admire every little doodle and scratch and scrawl that comes its way through Facebook.com/HowToWrestling.
And don't forget, you can find us on SoundCloud. Don't forget to subscribe. Alternatively, you can find us on iTunes. You can subscribe on there also. Leave a rating or review. Give us your opinions, your feedback on the episodes.
Help that algorithm. Some very nice reviews left recently, and thank you for those people who do take a bit of time to leave a rating and a review. It helps us out massively. So
we
thank
really
you very
appreciate it.
And also as well, something we appreciate greatly, and it is the best social media there is. I'm talking about the mouth of the human being. You can speak to other people. Let them know. Let your friends know about How To Wrestling. If you've got someone you want to get into wrestling, a lapsed fan maybe who wants to get back into it, or just someone you think might be interested in hearing a new fan's perspective, do let people know about How To Wrestling. We've got a lot of people who've been recommending it recently, and that honestly is the best way to help out.
Absolute best way to help us.
For those of you who are not aware, we are now on Patreon. Patreon.com/HowToWrestling. If you wish to support the running of this podcast and help out Joe and Kevin and their How To Wrestling pursuits, you can donate over there, become our patron, become our backers. Mm-hmm. We have backers from all walks of life at the moment. Thank you everyone who's backed us. It's been fucking an incredible response.
It's been really unreal.
We have hit nearly all of our stretch goals, bar like 1 or 2.
Well, the unrealistic one, which is we quit our day jobs.
Hey, it's still a possibility. I'm holding out like. But yeah, seriously, it's great. If you're not aware, you get, depending on the value of your patronage, you get different rewards. $1 backers get Joe's show notes, all the notes that go into the making of an episode of How To Wrestling.
$5 gets you access to our pay-per-view reviews. We do those monthly. We've done SummerSlam so far. We've just done Night of Champions.
Yes, so that's be available for $5 backers. You will get a extra episode. Monthly content will be going up there. Next one will be Hell in a Cell later in October.
Oh, I'm excited.
Very much so. $10 backers, you get access to our monthly Q&A hangout. And if you are someone who simply must pull a Kevin Poole and steer the great mighty ship that is How To Wrestling, $50 backers can request an episode as well, okay? And we have got some incredible ones lined up.
Yeah.
I was someone who was originally like, I don't know if we should have too many requested episodes, But honestly, the episodes you've requested are even better than the ones I had planned.
We were going to limit them, and now we're thinking maybe we won't because all of the requests have been really good. It's not like we have to worry about,
Subtle hint for you mega fans out there. Joe's got a 33.3% chance of thinking the next episode after Dudley Boys is going to be fucking awesome, okay? Wink, wink. That's all I'll say.
What does that mean?
It's a little bit of math for you there, Joe. It all will make sense in a few weeks' time.
Is that something to do with pie?
No. Good guess though, very good guess. And of course, yes, backers, all amounts are welcome and graciously taken. Anyone who has taken the time out of their day to patronize us over on patreon.com, thank you so much, guys. It's really fucking awesome. I've been doing podcasting a long time, and it is really nice to see like kind of such strong support and backing from the community, and it's nice to be able to have that extra content on there and give stuff back for that. So again, we always say, if there's something you'd like to see on the Patreon, or extra content or extra rewards or stretch goals you think we should have, do tweet in, let us know. We're always interested in hearing what you've got to say.
We want to know your thoughts and opinions on everything.
And thank you again for your thoughts and opinions on the Young Bucks. It has been a phenomenal experience. Watching these matches, talking about them, hearing your thoughts. I feel a lot less split about the Young Bucks now compared to when I first started this.
Yeah?
I think that I have been swayed quite a bit by the fans and the opinions, and actually just watching some of these matches kind of in sequence, it's really kind of turned me a lot on them. So this has been great for me.
Yeah, it's been really, really exciting. Really good fun.
So don't forget, #HowToDudleys. Let us know about Bubba Ray and Devon, those damn Dudleys, for our next episode.
I'm really excited.
If they're my fucking favourite tag team ever. It may just be 2 hours of me going, ooh.
Better not be. I can't wait to have an opinion.
It'll just be me going, ooh, and Joe going, Jesus. So, that might work,
Jesus.
Well, we'll catch you next time on How To Wrestling. It's a goodbye from me, Kevin.
And a goodbye from me, Joe.
And we'll see you next time when we're going to take a trip to Dudleyville.
See ya. We decided as a kind of offhand joke on Patreon for our $50 backers that they would get to name our non-existent child that me and Kevin don't have.
I would say they're legally obligated to name our non-existent child at this point.
Are we then legally obligated to actually follow through with that, do you think? If we
Maybe. If not, I think we can adopt like a dog or a runaway cat or something. Name it that as well.
So we asked Kevin Poole, our backer for this episode. Hello again, Kevin. Thank you very much for backing this episode. He gets to name our non-existent child for this episode.
Oh, good.
And this is what he decided to send in. He says, "This is how it would go in my head. The agreed upon name would be Kevin Manton Jr., but just as Kevin looks at the birth certificate, he sees you signed it Seth Rollins Jr. Swerve, heel turn by Joe. That's when Rollins' music hits. He runs into the delivery room and rolls up Kevin for a quick 3 count. Grabs his baby in the bank and runs away."
2 things about that. If he was called Kevin Jr., the kids could call him Kevju. So we're missing out a trick there.
Right.
Also, as well, in that scenario, if I was to, it's not something to make light of, I guess, someone stealing a child, but if you are going to do it, that's the most hilarious circumstances. I would only add the caveat that J&J Security should be the wet nurses. they pull down the thing, like give a big wink or something like that. I want to speak to the chief of medicine. It's Vince McMahon. Oh, shit. It would work. Excellent job, Kevin. Thank you.